You and I are about to watch a kid who took years of daily abuse from bullies like these. Day after day, he just took the beatings, but then, one day, something inside him snapped. Kim Taehyun awakened, and his so-called friends were clueless. Taehyun starts laughing, hysterically. They all think he's finally lost his mind. That maybe he'd finally broken, for the absolute first time in his life. Taehyun fought back. He sent the bully flying, his friends absolutely stunned. Our main character just smiles and tells them things are different now. He is one of the awakened, but they just laugh it off, calling it a lucky shot. After all, they're awakened too, and like total cowards, they all attack him at once. But Taehyun dodges and shatters the guy's teeth with a single punch. A swift kick to the stomach, and it's over. This is not the same kid. Because this Kim Taehyun has 30 years of experience fighting with mana. He knows all about the abyss and the monsters that will destroy half the world. See, in his original life, at 35, Kim Taehyun was a total failure. A non-awakened porter, basically a luggage mule for real hunters, constantly humiliated. And all he could do was take it. I mean, these were the heroes saving the world. In this society, your awakened rank is everything, forget money or status. And Taehyun, he had no rank, no power, he was completely worthless. On top of being dirt poor, one day during a raid he got distracted. He didn't even realize the entire hunter party had been wiped out, Earth's strongest heroes. Were now just lifeless bodies on the floor, and he was next on the menu. The culprit, a legendary SS-rank monster named Asmodius. Taehyun's attack was pathetic. Asmodius didn't even flinch. It invaded his mind, forcing him to relive every failure. The car crash that took his parents, the daily torment back in school. His pathetic, meaningless life as a porter, a final flash of misery before the end. And that should have been his pathetic end, but right here, this is where the story actually begins. An entity appears and freezes time. Taehyun can't comprehend it. This glowing white being just stands before him. Asmodius, the world, everything is frozen. Even his own body is paralyzed. Taehyun racks his brain, trying to understand what's happening. He pushes his brain to the limit, then gives up, asking the being who he is. The being calls himself the king, but says it's not important. He then grants Taehyun all of his own authority. Our main character is just completely lost, so the king simplifies it. He tells him not to overthink it. He was chosen for his unbreakable willpower. Now Taehyun must complete a task for him. Suddenly, a dragon lunges at him. It was probably drawn to the king's power, now nested inside Taehyun's soul. And then he wakes up, young again, with every single memory from his past life. The other bullies are down, but their leader gets back up. He's an awakened too. His ability, Stone Skin. He throws a powered-up punch, but Taehyun dodges. His teenage body is weak, but he has the combat experience of a 35-year-old veteran. The redhead leaps, shattering part of the school roof. Taehyun moves in. He strikes from behind, landing a solid blow to his face. Blood splatters. But the blood isn't his opponent's, it's from his own shredded knuckles. The bully unleashes his full power, sending him flying and wrecking the roof even more. Taehyun is down, he can't get back up. The bully walks over, laughing. He sneers that a failure never changes, but you and I both know his revenge has just begun. Stick with me, because this is where our main character's life gets completely flipped. In this world, people awaken powers ranked from the weakest F to the strongest S. The higher the rank, the stronger you are. It's that simple. Taehyun's rank, a pathetic F, the bastard in front of him, a C rank. There's no way he should be able to win this, but something feels different. Taehyun stands up, a new energy surging inside him, a power that isn't his own. The kid's aura suddenly terrifies the bully. It makes zero sense for a failure to have this kind of pressure. Taehyun feels it. This is predation, that impossible skill. Now watch this. The bully lunges, throwing everything he has into the attack. Our hero just raises a hand and blocks it. A shockwave rips through the air. But here's the crazy part. The punch never even touched him. A mysterious force is radiating from Taehyun. This is the birth of a king. That energy flows right into the bully's body. Across the schoolyard, other students freeze in shock from the blast. When the dust finally settles, the result is clear. The bully is crumpled on the ground like a bug, and only one person is still standing. A voice in his head confirms it, predation complete. And just like that, his power jumps from rank F to rank E. Kim Taehyun's hands begin to petrify as a brand new ability registers. He just stole stone skin, and his entire fist turns into solid rock. Suddenly, the scene shifts to the school infirmary. The nurse's jaw is on the floor. She's staring at 3 injured kids being carried in by another student. Kim Taehyun plays it cool, trying to act casual as he greets the nurse. The 3 boys are laid out on the infirmary beds. The nurse starts using her healing abilities to patch them up. She asks how in the world this happened. He just lies, saying they all fell down the stairs. After they're all healed, he leaves school and starts walking home, lost in his own thoughts. Okay, let's break this down. His new predation ability is absolutely insane. In his past life, he trained for years just to rank up his skills. But today, in a single fight, he ranked up an F-tier ability that not only beat a C-ranker, but also stole his powers. His mind is racing. Why did that king give him this power? And why, out of everything, was he sent back to the past? So many questions. But even with all the unknowns, he knows one thing for sure. He needs to learn everything about this predation skill. Finally, he gets to his house. It's been years in his memory since he was last here, so nostalgic. He remembers that after his parents died, he moved in with his aunt and uncle. A small smile forms on his face. He heads inside, thinking he'll do some research before his uncle gets home later. He walks into the living room and stops. 3 strangers are there with his cousin. He asks why he's not at school, but then his eyes go wide. He sighs it. The box his cousin is opening is stuffed with cash, and a horrible memory comes flooding back. His cousin wanted to run with delinquents, so he stole all the money from the house, causing a massive disaster. The punks look up and ask who he is. Gwang Jae just says he's his cousin. The blonde bully warns Kim Taehyun to stay out of their business, placing a hand on his head to show who's boss. But you and I both know that was a huge mistake. He didn't show a single sign of weakness. In fact, he was excited for the chance to finally test out his new powers. The blonde punk had no time to react. One clean punch sends him flying to the ground. Kim Taehyun almost knocked him out cold with that single impact. Hang Jae and the others could only watch, completely stunned. Our boy raised his hand, getting ready to activate his ability. The blonde threw his arms up to protect himself, terrified of the firepower about to hit him. Kim Taehyun was getting hyped too, but the voice in his head hit him with bad news. The skill-stealing ability, currently locked. The blonde stared, wondering why no attack was coming, while Kim Taehyun was just as shocked predation hadn't activated. In that moment of confusion, a fist came flying his way. The guy he was holding broke free and punched him hard, sending him stumbling back. That's when the blonde screamed for the other 2 to attack. One unleashed his vimming power, another spewed poisonous breath, and the blonde himself used his thorn ability. 3 attacks all heading straight for him. Okay, this is where it gets serious. The sheer speed of the assault caught Kim Taehyun off guard. Suddenly, pressure erupted from the house. A thick, purple smoke from the poison filled the air. The blonde started taunting him, thinking he'd already won the fight, but then he noticed something in the smoke. That crimson aura was back, shining right through the haze. The presence of a hungry predator was awakening inside Kim Taehyun. He grumbled about his ability only showing up when it feels like it, not when he needs it. The 3 delinquents were frozen in fear at what they were witnessing. He shot forward, his fist encased in solid rock, and slammed it right into the blonde's face. He could feel the overwhelming power of his ability coursing through him. A few moments later, with the fight won, he looked down at the unconscious bodies on the ground. Total satisfaction. That's when he realized the attribute window was visible only to him. It laid out his abilities, but something was off. It wasn't the full picture. The info didn't mention the specific conditions for activating his predation ability. On top of that, the passive effect that nullifies other people's powers. Yeah, that wasn't listed in his status window either. He kept thinking about it, running through different theories in his head, but decided to put a pin in it for now. He then saw his cousin kneeling on the ground, head bowed in apology. Hang Jae-young said he was reflecting on his reckless actions after seeing that incredible display. He swore he would become his subordinate and follow his every command. While the kid was talking, Kim Taehyun was already thinking about another incident. He told his cousin he was forgiven, and the kid shot up like a fox. But that forgiveness came with a price. He had to follow him and help with something. And just like that, the scene shifts to an abandoned train station, warning signs plastered everywhere. 3 agents stare ahead, their faces pale with shock. In front of them, a massive portal is about to suffer a break. A portal break is a catastrophe where monsters from the abyss literally tear a hole into reality. If left unchecked, it's a disaster worse than anything Mother Nature could cook up. The agent said the last portal break was 10 years ago, and these monsters were spreading way too fast. His assistant asked if they should start evacuating the entire neighborhood. But her supervisor gave a chilling response. It was already too late for that. All right, let's dive into a classic portal break scenario where this B-rank agent's ability is called Barrier. This gate is only ranked C, meaning the strongest monster inside should be C rank 2. But while the agent is busy bragging about his power, the monsters start pushing. They slam against the barrier, shattering it completely. The leader whips around. He reacts instantly to the threat behind him, taking off a Cyclops' head with a single kick. He's confident, saying that as B-rank awakeners, they are more than enough to handle this. Hwang Jae-hyung runs after his cousin, asking if those agents are going to be okay. He points out that the hunters back there seemed pretty strong, so it should be fine. He keeps repeating what was said as they hurry towards the train station. Kim Taehyun explains that with a C-rank gate and B-rank personnel, it's a simple job. They shouldn't have any real problems against C-rank monsters. It should be an easy clear. Hwang Jae-hyun complains that this is exactly what he was just saying. But Kim Taehyun hits him with a bombshell. That's only true if the portal was actually rank C. Back at the portal, the ground is littered with monster corpses. Now pay attention, because this is where the pros start to feel it. The leader wonders how mere C-rank monsters shattered his superior B-rank barrier. He turns to the gate again, realizing the mana pouring out is far stronger than he thought. Just then, more creatures emerge from the shimmering portal, touching the barrier. The new barrier instantly cracks. The 3 hunters stare, completely speechless. The monsters shatter the new barrier, blasting the hunters back with a shockwave of power. They pour out of the entrance, but leading them is one absolute behemoth. The one who did all this damage was a giant ogre, an A-rank monster. The leader is horrified. This isn't a C-rank gate, it's A-rank. Then, a massive explosion rocks the station. Hang Jae-hyung asks his cousin how on earth he could have known all that. Kim Taehyun can't exactly explain his crazy power, so he just calls it intuition. Ahead of them, a huge crowd of terrified civilians is running for their lives. A woman at the front screams for everyone to run. It's a full-on portal break. Hwang Jae-hyun is just stunned that his cousin was right about everything. Kim Taehyun tells him to just do what he asked him to do earlier. His cousin asks what he's going to do now. Kim's response is simple. He'll handle the monsters himself and meet up with him later. The city skyline glows at night, illuminated by countless building lights. A man on the phone reports that they can't send reinforcements to the portal break. There just aren't enough members available. He says the only hope for this crisis would be a top-tier A-rank awakener. He then turns to the man right behind him. He's asking for help from the A-rank awakener, nicknamed the Lunatic Blade, Hae-in-soo. And I know what you're thinking, this guy's dramatic. He announces not to worry because the hero has arrived. His greatest specialty, a severe case of 8th grade syndrome. Elsewhere, Kim Taehyun crushes a monster's skull, uppercuts another, and punches a third through the chest. The monsters all go down under his relentless combination of attacks. He activates his predation power, and a shockwave throws back all the monsters nearby. Kim Taehyun looks at the aftermath, satisfied. He's just figured something crucial out. He realizes the reason his ability sometimes fails to activate is simply due to fatigue. If that fatigue value goes over 70%, he just can't use it anymore. Most abilities run on mana, but for him, fatigue is just as important. Important as mana, it builds up when he uses skills or does anything physical. The higher his fatigue, the weaker his powers get and the heavier he feels. But as Kim Taehyun uses predation on the fallen monsters, he makes a discovery. Turns out he can recover his mana without spending a single point of fatigue. Not only does he get his strength back, but his abilities even start ranking up. And trust me, you and I are about to see just how broken this skill can get. He dreams of hitting the legendary SS rank, or maybe even becoming the first ever SSS. After clearing out the rest of the monsters, he looks back, sensing a presence. He spots another Awakener, taking down monsters nearby with incredible flair. The guy yells about avenging the souls the monsters killed, declaring himself a warrior of justice named Enhansu. Kim Taehyun has no idea what to make of this dude. With a sword made of pure light, he easily counters an ogre charging at him. In a flash, his blade glows, unleashing a series of rapid cuts on the beast. Kim Taehyun is just stunned, watching this insane display of power. And then he realizes that must be the Awakener who cleared the portal break before. He just stands there admiring the hero, who boasts living up to the legend. But Taehyun starts questioning why he's even here, since in the original timeline, Hansu was supposed to be fighting in a completely different city. Suddenly pay attention, because this is where everything goes sideways. An attribute window flashes, warning him of a hostile ability. He's hit with a vision, someone sneaking up from behind and stabbing Hansu's heart. He sees the hero spit blood, and the assassin laughs, having eliminated his target. The city is in ruins from the monster attack, the air thick with tension. Meanwhile, in a quiet clothing store, Hwan Yi-young watches over a sleeping nurse. She seems to be in a deep, peaceful slumber. He steals his nerves. He remembers the chilling words Kim Taehyun told him before all this started. He was warned that many people would die tonight, and this nurse was one of them. Apparently, she was just relaxing instead of evacuating, which led to her death. So using his sleep ability, he put the nurse out cold to carry her to safety. Kim Taehyun promised he would handle everything else from there. But Yi-young can't stop wondering how his cousin knew all of this. Then slowly, the pieces in his mind finally click into place. And I know what you're thinking. Yep, he realizes Taehyun can foresee the future. He can't help but be amazed by how incredible his cousin's power is. He was certain that with Taehyun's prediction, nothing could go wrong. Back on the streets, it seems Hansu somehow managed to escape the assassin's grasp. Clutching the wound to stop the bleeding, he demands to know who attacked him. The assassin is genuinely surprised. He survived a direct hit to a vital point. Guess that's what you'd expect from a powerful A-ranker. The assassin, Han Sang-do, is thrilled. People call Awakeners who commit crimes villains, and this guy was a big one. In front of them was a B-rank awakened, a known maniac who killed for fun. But Kim Taehyun is sure of one thing: these two never met in his past life. He wonders if his regression is what caused this timeline to change so drastically. And Hansu, furious, glares at the villain who tried to end him. He reignites his light sword and charges straight into the fight. The ground rumbles. Below them, a monster they missed is still alive. And trust me, it's not happy, unleashing a massive attack on all three of them. It roars with pure rage and pain, and the heroes are shocked by its next move. The ogre is regenerating. As they fall back, the monster starts charging its fist. Gathering immense power, it smashes the ground, causing total destruction. The villain decides to let the monster handle Nhunu, turning his attention elsewhere. He spots his true prey, saying he didn't expect a spectator. A cruel smile spreads. Now watch this, he points his daggers, and Kim Taehyun is stunned by the villain's insane speed. The blades are just inches from his body. Before they can pierce his skin, he reacts. He activates his ability to defend, then kicks the villain flying. The assassin is shocked. He realizes this kid is an awakened one, but Kim Taehyun just smirks. He knows exactly who this is, calling him the lunatic who kills people with stealth. He says he's happy he finally found him. The two of them clash, exchanging fierce blows. Kim Taehyun swings a heavy punch straight for the villain's head, but he's too quick. He dodges back and blocks the hit with his hardened stone arms, with every impact. The villain's dagger gets damaged more and more. They strike at the exact same time. The villain actually compliments Kim Taehyun's combat skills, saying his ability is pretty good. For defense anyway, while they talk, Nhunu is still fighting the giant ogre, shouting. He tries to get Kim Taehyun's attention, announcing he's about to use his skill. In a flash, the villain disappears. Kim Taehyun stays on high alert. He's well aware of his opponent's stealth. He spins to defend against an attack. An attack from behind, but he hits nothing but air. The villain reappears and then. At the very last second, Kim Taehyun manages to block, but still gets slashed. The strike actually cut right through his stone layer. The villain, Han Sang-do, brags he's killed plenty of people with similar powers. He moves so fast that he leaves afterimages all around, attacking from every direction at once. The ridiculous number of strikes forces Kim Taehyun to retreat. Then comes the final attack. Han Sang-do viciously pierces right through Kim Taehyun, gasping, covered in wounds. Kim Taehyun finally understands a critical weakness in his ability he never saw before. A single powerful shot would shatter the stone, and the part that grew back would be far less durable. Han Sang-do had been counting on this all along. He was exploiting that weakness from the very beginning, but Kim Taehyun doesn't look defeated. Okay, I know what you're thinking, looks bad, right? But he just wonders aloud if it's time to end his little test. Han-do thinks he's gone crazy from all the hits, but Kim Taehyun isn't finished. He asks the villain if he knows the real reason he was looking for him. He's confused, then that same crimson aura begins to swirl around Kim Taehyun. He wanted to steal Han Sang-do's ability. The heavy atmosphere is unsettling. The villain feels it but isn't scared. He uses the same afterimage tactic again, creating clones all around Kim Taehyun, but our hero says he's already found the weakness. The weakness in his stealth. He figured it out after fighting all sorts of monsters. Many monsters could escape his vision, but his ability always managed to catch them. No matter where they hide or where they run, his predation always reaches its prey. The crimson aura hunts Han Sang-do down, even while invisible, and tears him to pieces. As dawn breaks once again, we see Nhunsu collapsed on the ground, completely wiped out. He's exhausted from his own battle, realizing that even a hero of his level. And guys, even a hero like him can't escape death. A giant ogre towers over him. The monster throws a massive punch, aiming to smash the ground right where Nhunu is. The ogre waits for the dust to clear. Expecting blood but sees nothing, Kim Taehyun looks on, surprised at how exhausted the beast looks. He'd saved Nhunu from certain death at the last possible second. Later on, the couple opens their door, their faces a mix of shock and relief. They see their son and nephew finally back home. Tears of pure joy stream down their faces. They were terrified that monsters had gotten them, but their son just says nothing happened. Then he points out the house is a complete disaster, like someone flipped everything upside down. And once again, Hwang Jae-hun nervously insists that nothing happened at all. On a cell phone, the news channel is reporting that the portal break has been fully resolved. But as a precaution against another one, all schools will be closed for a week. Reports of survivors are lifting everyone's spirits. The cleanup team sent to the portal is now in the hospital receiving treatment. The school nurse claims she just fell asleep and woke up in a totally different place. In an interview, the only awakened president at the scene said that the hero who saved everyone wasn't him, but some other unknown person. However, the giant ogre's corpse was never found, and the identity of the villain who attacked the city remains a complete mystery. People are realizing that the city's current security measures just aren't cutting it anymore. While watching the news, Kim Taehyun is just relieved his name wasn't mentioned. He stops walking, having reached his destination. Now let's talk powers. He can have 3 abilities. The newest one being stealth. At his current level, it's really tough to use all 3 since he lacks the mana, and using too much will burn him out fast. He remembers there's only one solution for this problem. Potions. Potions are elixirs created for all sorts of things, like recovering mana and fighting off fatigue. But here's the catch: potions are incredibly expensive, which is why he's out here in this abandoned district. His plan: to hunt. But to hunt, he needs a legal license to use his powers in public. And if he can't, his only choice is to raid undiscovered dungeons, just like the one he's in now. After squeezing through a narrow passage, he finds himself facing huge insect-like creatures and giant spiders. And you're not gonna believe this, the humanoid monsters are smart enough to talk, and they're mocking him. He sizes them up. Their power is around rank B, but a few of these aren't nearly enough for him to level up. The Spider Sisters take his comment as an insult and immediately lunge into an attack. They all fill their mouths with venom and spit it out in one combined assault. They were already celebrating their victory, but his predation ability completely nullifies the venom's effects, leaving him totally unharmed. The 3 sisters are stunned. This is the first time a human has ever resisted their poison. The screams that echoed through that old railway station were intense. His attribute window pops up: success. He stole their ability to paralyze opponents. Meanwhile, the Korean Players Association building stood like a massive skyscraper. Inside, a meeting room was heavily protected by 2 guards. 3 people were sitting and waiting inside. The one in the middle was Go, the association's new HR manager, and the other 2. You and I are about to meet the 2 best players in all of Korea. All right, let's dive into a world where the awakened can legally explore dungeons. But right now, only 5 top players exist in the newly formed Players Association. Out of all the guilds, 4 of them stand at the very top of the food chain. You've got the indivisible fighters, the alchemist artisans, the wizard sorcerers, and the informant wanderers, and the one agency controlling all of them. That's the Players Association. Right now, Got Taehyun is meeting with 2 legends. The guild master of the wanderers, Yoo Young, and the association president himself. President Cheap Chin Wei, and here's the thing, they're both S-rank players. The president asks Yoo Young what she's found on the infamous Evil Guild. This guild is a nasty criminal organization made up of the worst of the worst. They're ruthless villains, and every single recognized member of this evil guild wears a golden ring with 3 skulls carved right into it. She hands him some files detailing the evil guild's recent movements and a hit list. But she knows that's not the only reason she was summoned here today. The president cuts straight to the chase and asks for her take on this asterisk case. She's confused. What does he mean? So he asks her a strange question. He asks how old she was when she took her player test. 19, she says. And just like that, she understands exactly what he's implying. The president just smiles, impressed she figured out he suspects a high schooler took on an A-rank monster. Now pay attention, because while they're talking, here's the reality in that spider cave. Not a single monster left standing, just Kim Taehyun sitting on a throne of corpses. He casually calls up one of the 4 major guilds, the alchemists. Surrounded by a mountain of magic crystals, he simply asks if he can buy some potions. The school closure finally ends, and all the students head back to class. Over the week, Kim Taehyun has been busy, from brutal physical training to clearing dungeons. He even paid a visit to the Alchemists Guild headquarters in person. There he cashed in all his mana stones for potions and got the full VIP treatment. On top of that, he boosted all his stats and upgraded his abilities to C rank. Back in class, he just rests his head on his hand as other students stare from afar. The rumors were flying about him destroying the bullies and finally awakening his power. One student sneers that his awakening was probably the weakest of them all. Suddenly, a group of students makes their way toward his classroom. Kim Taehyun senses them coming. The chairs get kicked aside, clearing a path. The newcomers stand before him, and their leader slams his feet on the desk. His name is Lee Yong-ai, and he's an S rank. He immediately unleashes his intimidating aura. Lee Yong-ai is the son of the Tasa Group's CEO, the corporation that sponsors the school. He's the king of the bullies, abusing his power without a second thought. And yeah, he's the main guy who made Kim Taehyun's life a living hell. Kim Taehyun asks him why he'd ever call himself a friend, unleashing his own powerful aura. One of the goons in the back questions his disrespect, but Lee Yong-ai just decks him. That's the price for interrupting their little reunion. Kim Taehyun doesn't even flinch. The leader then starts releasing his full superpower, trying to intimidate him. I gotta say, you and I are both watching Kim Taehyun, and he's just not impressed. He notes the magic level for an S-rank awakener. His hand is already in his pocket. He wonders how the bully will handle his predation skill, but then they're interrupted. Let's jump right in, because this confrontation was about to explode. Lee Yong-ai's fire is snuffed out by her ice abilities as she warns Kim Taehyun. She tells him not to continue the fight. Lim Ayoung has many titles: class president, Miss Rich Girl, half-sister of Yu Ayoung, and an S-rank awakener, just to name a few. And she was definitely on track to earn more. Her only problem was her rigid personality. Facing this, she confronts Lee Yong-ai, who scoffs and asks what her problem is. He claims he was just talking to his friend, so she asks why his talk involved punching his fallen friend in the face. That hits a nerve, and he tells her to shut up. She doesn't flinch, telling him to leave or she'll use force. Meanwhile, Kim Taehyun is mentally begging them to stop, knowing their drama will cause problems. You can feel the tension, right? The two stare each other down one last time. Lee Yong-ai decides to leave first, but then activates his powers for a cheap shot. He prepares a fire blast aimed right at her, but then the school bell rings. An announcement comes on. The broadcasting club says the Players Association is holding a special lecture. All students must gather in the hall immediately. The message repeats, leaving Lee Yong-ai completely shocked by the news. The Players Association is at their school. He powers down, looking at Lim Ayoung and Kim Taehyun. She was ready to counter his attack while he just sat there saying nothing. Lee Yong-ai just grins, leaving the room with a smug "you're lucky." He waits for the door to close before letting his guard down. She turns to look for Kim Taehyun, but his seat is empty. He's already standing at the door. He just asks if she didn't hear the announcement before walking out. She turns back, totally confused. She didn't even see him move and wonders to herself if he had always been that fast. Soon, everyone gathers in the main hall. The students all wonder what this lecture could possibly be about. The microphone turns on. It's the voice of Go Tae-wook, the vice manager of the association's HR department. He says they are there for two reasons. The first, to address the association's response to the recent portal break and provide safety training. The second reason was to announce changes to player tests for students, the future of South Korea. Hearing this, Lee Yong-ai silently curses Kim Taehyun. Lim Ayoung plans to talk to Kim Taehyun later, but he just yawns, looking totally bored. Everyone whispers, what do player tests have to do with them? They're not even 19 yet, but Go Tae-wook reveals a huge secret. Due to the portal break and the rise in monsters, the association. Okay, hold up. This is the bombshell that changes everything for these kids. This news sends a shockwave through the hall. He explains students will be chosen based on grades, academic records, and behavior, but Kim Taehyun knows that's a complete lie. The selection process has already started. Go Tae-wook has an ability called Observer's Eye. It can quantify the total sum of a target's power. He can literally see their attribute window just by focusing on them. As he scans the hall, he's genuinely impressed by the numbers he sees. He thinks the numbers here are much better than any other place he has visited. And this, my friends, is where we get a peek at the real power levels. Lim Ayoung stands out with a staggering 2335. He remembers the Wanderers sent a list of recommendations, but he's floored that so many untrained awakeners have this much potential. A smirk spreads across his face. Lee Young-gir raises his hand, and just like that, he has everyone's attention. He asks a loaded question about whether or not unfit candidates should even have to take the test. Trust me, you and I know who he's talking about. This gets the vice manager's attention. He explains that player tests are meant to evaluate those who are suitable among the awakened. And that mere sleepers who haven't powered up have no right to even be in this lecture. He's looking right at Kim Taehyun. To become a player, a complex set of abilities must be evaluated. Lee Jong-gi continues his little speech. And his goal is obviously to humiliate Kim Taehyun, which gets a few cheap laughs from the other students. Kim Taehyun knows exactly what this is about. Lee Young-gi is desperate to confirm whether he's awakened or not. So he just stares back, calling his bluff. Limong doesn't like his methods, but she remembers Kim Taehyun's own lack of manners from earlier. Her hesitation is enough. She says it's up to each student to decide if they want to participate or not. But he keeps pushing, trying to provoke Kim Taehyun. He knows Lee Young-gi is technically right. He can't take the player test if he can't prove he's awakened. However, he also knows the observer's eye could just give him a recommendation without him doing a thing. From afar, a man named Gotwook watches the students. He thinks Lee Young's behavior is just pathetic. Then his eyes lock onto Kim Taehyun. And get this, the observer's eye can't verify his information. The realization hits him hard. Just then, Kim Taehyun decides to challenge Lee Jong-gi back. Everyone who's watching is completely confused. Kim Taehyun then announces that he'll lead the lecture himself and flips the middle finger at Lee Jong-gi. This bold move makes Lee Jong-gi absolutely furious, but Got Taewook is still stunned. His special ability just failed. Not even when used on the association's president or the Wanderers Guildmaster has his power ever glitched out like this. Kim Taehyun leaves the hall, and Got Taewook is left wondering why his ability just failed on some kid. A few steps from the door, he stops. Got Taewook tries over and over to scan him, but it just won't work. Kim Taehyun turns and finally allows his power to be seen. Got Wook is instantly floored. A terrifying aura explodes around him, and the power level displayed above his head is over 5,000. Sometime later that same day, Kim Taehyun is in the library surrounded by books, searching for clues about the king, when he's interrupted. It's the same group of bullies he already defeated once. They say Lee Young is looking for him and that he better get up. He boldly challenges them, refusing to follow their orders. They're silent for a moment, but then they mention his aunt's restaurant. That hits a nerve. He takes his eyes off the books. As he raises his head, they say their leader sent a message. They insult Kim Taehyun, calling him a pathetic orphan who only causes his family trouble. The bully with the smug look on his face never even sees the attack coming. And then boom, the entire library explodes with the sheer pressure of the blow. Every single bookshelf is completely destroyed. The bully is held by his neck, blood dripping from his mouth. The other two are knocked out instantly. Then Kim Taehyun simply asks where Lee Young-gi is so he can go find him. Back in the main hall, the lecture is over, and the place is empty, except for Lee Young-gi and his bodyguard. Alright, watch this smug dude try to recruit our boy Kim Taehyun, surprising his bodyguard. Since Kim Taehyun showed up, he'd been spamming negative status abilities. But against that oppressive aura, none of the skills worked, just as he'd suspected. Lee Young-ae had awakened his powers and wanted to talk, but Kim Tae-hyun wasn't having it. He kept talking, saying he didn't want to threaten him, he wanted to recruit him. He revealed his plans to create a guild, but Kim Taehyun still gave him nothing. He said he needed other geniuses to work for him, to build his empire. He points right at Kim Taehyun, acknowledging his raw talent. He tells him to forget their past grudges, promising to bring fortune and honor to his family. To lift them out of the mud, Kim Taehyun finally snaps back. He asks him just how much nonsense he's going to spew, activating his ability. With his stone skin fully formed, he gets ready to smash that arrogant face in. For a split second, Lee Young-ae is caught off guard, but he quickly recovers. He smirks, thinking that some dogs just need to be trained to obey their masters. Then he unleashes his own fire powers, while the bodyguard places a hand on the ground. A magic circle spreads out, creating a special room that seals the space. It prevents anyone on the outside from detecting the magic being used within. The entire floor, walls, and ceiling are now coated in this magical barrier. Now get ready for this, because with the room set, the real fight finally begins. Kim Tae-hyun pulls back his stone arm, ready to throw a massive punch. Lee Young-ae coats his own fist in roaring flames. Their attacks collide, creating a huge explosion. But the fire is stronger than the stone, shattering his arm into pieces. Pain shoots through his entire limb. Before he can even react, another attack is coming. A flaming kick sends Kim Taehyun flying, slamming him hard against the wall. The sheer force of the impact and the intense heat cause him severe internal injuries. Lee Jong just stands there, enjoying his moment of absolute superiority. The bodyguard just watches the chaos, feeling a little sorry for the kid. But then Kim Tae-hyun explodes out from the flames and charges straight forward. His attack is blocked, and Lee Young-ae instantly prepares a counterattack. He shoves his fire-charged hand right towards Kim Taehyun's head. A massive fire blast erupts directly in his face. Now pay attention, because the bodyguard just noticed something absolutely insane. After the flames die down, Kim Taehyun is already recovered and throwing another stone punch. He starts to overwhelm Lee Young-ae. They both strike, but Kim Tae-hyun's fist hits home first. The pure force of the blow sends him hurtling through the air. The bodyguard can't believe what he's seeing. The young master was overpowered. Lee Jong struggles to get back up. He yells, asking what Kim Tae-hyun did to him. His body won't move. The bodyguard is completely stunned by this turn of events. He realizes physical strengthening isn't Kim Tae-hyun's only power. Our boy is thrilled inside. His paralysis ability actually worked. This ability can easily cut through high-rank resistances. Stealth was a bad option. A long-range fire user would nullify it, and his last resort skill was too risky. So the goal was simple: accumulate paralysis through close-quarters combat. He figured out that status effects from abilities have a much bigger impact. And you and I just witnessed why he's a genius. He used direct contact instead of fighting from a distance. Let's jump right in, because that last attack packed a nasty paralysis. It's cutting right through the opponent's high-level resistance. The bodyguard is speechless, watching his young master actually lose. He knew Kim Taehyun was a genius, but this fight isn't over yet. Lee Young-hyuk lies on the ground, completely seized by the paralysis. He finally admits he underestimated his opponent way too much. He crushes the purple crystal between his fingers. A massive fire giant forms right in front of Kim Taehyun. Lee Young-hyuk declares he's finally getting serious as flames erupt around him. He rockets forward, propelled by his own roaring fire. The fire titan throws a massive punch, missing its target by a hair. Kim's arms are now solid rock as he winds up for a counterpunch. But the titan retaliates with a breath of fire. Watch closely now. Their attacks collide in the dead center of the room. The flames just slowly eat away at the rock-based ability. His stone protection shatters, and Kim Taehyun is sent flying by the blast. He realizes this Titan is the true form of the young master's fire ability. That purple crystal he used was a mana amplification stone. It was made by refining the magic stones found inside monsters. Thanks to that stone, Lee Young-hyuk can unleash his full power. The bodyguard yells for the young master to stop, or he will kill him. He warns that it's way too much power for his body to even handle. His blood vessels could literally explode from the sheer mana surge. A fireball explodes right where the bodyguard was just standing. Lee Young-hyuk is furious his own subordinate dared to give him orders. He screams that he refuses to be humiliated like that. Kim Taehyun barely recovers before the fire titan unleashes its full fury. He starts laughing hysterically, and yeah, I think we all agree this dude's a psycho. The bodyguard rushes in to stop the young master from going too far. He reaches a hand into the crater to help, only to get punched in the face. Kim Taehyun asks what he was thinking since he started this fight. He downs several restoration potions, preparing to get serious himself. His predatory aura explodes from his body. Meanwhile, at the Korean Players Association, the vice manager reports in. He's floored by the ridiculously high numbers, 1900 and 2300. These power levels belong to students Lee Young and Lim Haeyoung. The vice manager claims these two students are S-rank awakeners. The other agents can't believe there's an untrained S-ranker like this. Someone with potential comparable to Japan's legendary saint. Her own power barely exceeded 2500 at her first inspection. But the vice manager is stuck on Kim Taehyun's evaluation. His value was an impossible 5096. Was it an evaluation error or something wrong with his ability? He leaves with the other agents to find Kim Taehyun and confirm it firsthand. The bodyguard is just frozen, and trust me, you're not ready for what he sees. That's right, the predatory ability was completely shutting down the mighty fire titan. And you've got to see this, he's struggling, with no idea how Kim Taehyun is doing this. He just can't believe he's being overwhelmed by someone he saw as a total weakling. He screams that he's an heir, a powerful S-rank, but Kim Taehyun just scoffs. As if his family name or rank even matters at this point, he exerts a bit more force. And the monarch's power takes shape, growing from decaying scarlet vines. They completely devour Lee Jong-beek's titan form, and the court shatters from the raw power. The entire gym is just gone. Lee Jong-beek is knocked out cold on the floor. His bodyguard is trembling uncontrollably. Kim Taehyun just watches him. But with surprise, the bodyguard actually protected his young master at the last second. He threw himself in front of the attack, pulling him free just in time. A smart move. He asks Kim Taehyun what he's planning to do now. How will he possibly handle the consequences of this? Kim Taehyun just smirks. He questions how the bodyguard can act so bold after jumping into the fight himself. He makes it clear he's not the type to run away from a threat like this. He denies planning to kill Lee Jong-beek, but insists on getting fair compensation. Compensation for his life. The bodyguard's face instantly turns pale. And get this, he suggests 1 billion won would be just enough to keep him alive. Outside, a crowd of students has gathered around the site of the explosion. Everyone's wondering if it was a villain attack, but Lim Ah-young is different. She recognizes those flames instantly, her brows furrow, thinking of Lee Jong-beek. Then an image flashes through her mind, the memory of Kim Taehyun being bullied. The nurse tries to calm everyone down, but Lim Ah-young just bolts past everyone. Straight for the gym, the nurse is shocked to see her sprinting like her life depends on it. She's meters from the door, regretting just standing by and watching earlier. She didn't do anything then, so she charges in now, fearlessly, right through the flames. You can feel her desperation, right? She's praying that Kim Taehyun isn't dead. But the scene she finds is completely different from what she imagined. He's just standing there. She demands to know what he did to defeat Lee Jong-beek. Kim Taehyun, however, isn't about to explain, simply saying he fell down the stairs. The lie couldn't be more obvious. He then asks her to handle the mess, to clean it up without telling anyone what she really saw. Then he quickly leaves. Lim Ah-young orders him to tell her the truth, but when she turns to him, he's already gone. She has no idea how he could have just vanished like that. A moment later, Kim Taehyun reappears a safe distance from the gym. He figures Lim Ah-young will take care of the situation, and the Taehyun group will handle his reward. He turns his attention to his status window. A new notification has popped up. A brand new ability and a new attribute have been added to his screen. The charm attribute with 5 points and the ability Monarch's Heart, which strengthens his party. He's a little irritated to have gotten an attribute from a celebrity like Lee Jong-beek. But he's thrilled about the new ability he just gained. He knows abilities that strengthen the whole group are incredibly rare. For someone like him who uses tons of skills, Monarch's Heart is a game changer. It can be combined with any other ability, but while he's celebrating his win, a fleet of black cars suddenly appears in front of him, and yeah, we both know this can't be good. He steps out of the car and says it's a pleasure to meet him, but the vice manager has other plans. He says he has a lot of questions. Kim Taehyun wonders how in the world he ended up here. We cut to Lee Jang-bae's father's mansion, where he's just gotten the news. His one and only son is in the hospital, and the guy who put him there is demanding a staggering $1 billion for his son's life. His hunting dogs bark viciously. The bodyguard is trembling with fear in front of his boss. He apologizes, saying he has nothing to add. But the boss tells him to do whatever Kim Taehyun asks for. This completely shocks his subordinate. Mockingly, the boss calls Kim Taehyun a brave kid. He raises his right hand from the armrest of his chair, and with a single snap of his fingers, he signals his other men to enter the room. The bodyguard immediately recognizes the people walking in. He shouts at his boss, pleading with him to remember his opponent is just a kid, that this is way too cruel. The boss just tells him to shut up, saying he won't tolerate a dog barking back at him. Lee Jong-soo just smiles coldly at the men standing before him. Back in the car, the vice manager asks what he did at the gym. Kim Taehyun freezes. He has no idea which of the two incidents the man is referring to. He quickly weighs the odds of the manager knowing about his beef with Lee Jong-gae. With no good options, he decides to gamble, asking if he means the explosion. The vice manager is clearly surprised by the question. He looks back and says they'll deal with that another time, and just like that, Kim Taehyun confirms it. The vice manager has no idea he was involved in the gym explosion. A sly smile creeps onto his face as he asks if they don't already know what he did, leaving him hanging. Kim Taehyun says he knows they came to invite him to take the player test, being careful not to reveal how he figured it out. And then Kim Taehyun unleashes his aura. The number 5214 appears above his head. He says that massive number is exactly why they're here. The vice manager is absolutely floored. He cannot believe what he's seeing. As the numbers over his head climb even higher, he knows this isn't a trick. Kim Taehyun's power is the real deal. Then he asks another question: what happened to his clothes? Kim Taehyun finally looks down and notices they're completely wrecked. Over at Kim Taehyun's house, his cousin is absolutely screaming his head off. Hwang Yi-young demands to know if he's really taking the player test, and Kim Taehyun just calmly confirms it. Hearing this, his cousin's jaw hits the floor. Then he dramatically drops to his knees before the great Kim Taehyun. He says the Taehyun group will handle the gym problem. He just needs to focus on training. He's got exactly 1 month. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing on the table. Meanwhile, outside his house, 2 figures are waiting in the shadows. They're wondering why the association is bothering to protect a mere student's house. The man in the white mask has just taken down an association agent while his partner watches the house. These two are a professional assassination unit, the Black and White Brothers. The elder brother uses the code name Black, specializing in stealth and physical enhancement. The younger brother goes by White, and his only skill is pure stealth. From the rooftop, the one in black laughs, planning the student's demise. He turns to look at his brother, only to be left speechless as he watches him get beaten down. He whips out his hidden blade, demanding to know who's attacking his brother. Kim Taehyun lets go of the white-masked villain, and the black-masked one had absolutely no time to react. And just like that, he cops a full-on knee strike from his own target. Let's rewind a few hours. Back at the gym, the bodyguard said he could just sweep the incident under the rug and hand over 1 billion won himself. Kim Taehyun wasn't buying it. He said he wasn't cruel enough to dump that responsibility on a subordinate and told him to get a better deal from his boss. Then he summons a contract right into his hand. The promise of the awakened, a magical pact. Breaking it means you get hit with a random, permanent penalty. The contract's first condition was pretty simple. Besides the 1 billion won, he also had to fix the whole gym disaster. Live on the news, reports suddenly claimed the school gym incident was just a simple gas leak, fulfilling the first part of their magical deal. And the second condition: inform him ahead of time about any plans for revenge. Now, here's where it all kicks off. The black-masked assassin lunges with his blade, but Kim Taehyun sidesteps it easily. He cocks back his left fist and unleashes a devastating punch straight forward. The assassin flips upward to dodge and immediately prepares his counterattack. He strikes from behind but completely misses his mark. He can't believe it. He's just standing there, shocked. From behind, Kim Taehyun mocks him, saying the assassins sent to kill him are pathetically weak, good for nothing but their stealth skills. Elsewhere in a big black car, Yuna is on a call. She's on the line with the president, asking about the upcoming player test. She wants to know who's observing her. Will it be Shin Yoonhyuk from Bucheon or an S rank? On the other end, the president shuts down her theories. He admits Shin Yoonhyuk is a solid choice, but he's actually more interested in her sister, Lim Yina. Yuna tells him she doesn't find his jokes very funny. The president then asks who she's got her eye on. Yuna says it was Shin Yoonhyuk, but another name has popped up on her radar. She reveals that their own vice manager, Go Taewook, personally scouted an S rank. Back to the action, Kim Taehyun has already wiped the floor with both assassins. But then he looks down at his hand, and yeah, that's the real problem right there. He's struggling to use his predation power. The attribute window confirms it. He's unable to use predation due to physical incapacity. On the street in front of his house, the two unmasked assassins are now exposed for all to see. Agents working for the vice manager, Go Taewook, are disgusted by this pathetic attempt to attack a high school kid. Go Taewook thanks Kim Taehyun, then asks him a direct question. Does he know who hired them for the hit? Surprised, he plays it cool. He says he doesn't know a thing. Go Taewook starts to wonder out loud if the participant list somehow got leaked. Kim Taehyun knows it could be bad if the teen group finds out too much about him. But they're the least of his worries right now. He tries to activate his ability, but it's no use. His physical stats just aren't high enough to handle it. He starts walking home, his mind racing. How can he raise his stats enough to be able to use predation again? Hunting monsters or other awakened won't work. That's a flawed method since it requires using the ability itself. After thinking it over for a bit, he realizes there is only one way. The next day at Blackhorn Academy, personal trainer Yura welcomes some new visitors, and trust me, you'll want to see who they are. Let's dive in. We're at Korea's new association, where the receptionist immediately notices something. The two arrivals are just kids. She starts to say this isn't a playground, but then Kim Taehyun casually pulls out a black and gold card. Yura just stares at the VIP card. She recognizes it instantly, a card from the Alchemist's Guild. Her mind starts racing. Just who is this boy? She's worried about causing a problem if she makes the wrong move. Suddenly, a massive muscular figure appears, looking to save Yura from the situation. This Hulk says money isn't enough to get in here. This guy is the infamous Iron Man. He's not an official player, but he is a rank B awakened named Hwang Jae-hyung. Our main character's friend, completely confused, asks what they're supposed to do now. Meanwhile, a small group of bodybuilders watches the whole scene unfold. The Iron Man, a notorious killer of rookies, has just found his brand new prey. The muscular man continues to pose, while Kim Taehyun comments that he's just barking like a dog. That remark definitely gets his attention. Hwang Jae-hyung and Yura are in total shock. They can't believe how rude he's being. The Iron Man asks if he's being called weak. He fires back with a challenge. You and I both know this is where the fun begins, a bet. The loser has to pay for a full year of the winner's membership. The big guy just laughs. He arrogantly accepts the challenge. In a flash, they're both teleported to a virtual game. The entire academy is now watching the showdown unfold on their screens. Hwang Jae-hyung asks what this abyss simulating game is. Yura explains it's a program. It's a program called the Virtual Portal, and inside, there is a perfect replica of the abyss. And that's exactly where their competition begins. The objective is brutally simple. They have to reach the finish line, carrying the most weight in the shortest time possible. All while taking out rank B monsters that spawn along the way. This game is the most common way they establish the pecking order in this academy. The Iron Man starts strong, charging headfirst into a horde of creatures. His muscle enhancement ability gives him a huge advantage in close-quarters combat. It also boosts his mobility and allows him to carry an insane amount of weight here. But suddenly, he sees a streak of light flash right past him. Don't blink, it's Kim Taehyun, blowing past him in a literal instant. 3 monsters try to intercept him, but his advance is just too fast to even register. He prepares a powerful kick, and the monsters are completely helpless to react. All they can do is watch as he easily erases them from existence. He kicks straight up, eliminating an entire group of monsters along the way. And on his way back down, he finishes off the ones he originally passed. The Iron Man sees the massive score Kim Taehyun is racking up ahead of him. He is absolutely stunned. Everyone else watching from the academy is also shocked. Only Hwang is cheering like crazy. Kim Taehyun turns his gaze to the Iron Man and thanks him for paying his membership for the next year. You and I just watched pure humiliation unfold. Time passes, and today the player tests finally begin. Everyone's been waiting for this. Journalists in helicopters observe all the candidates gathered below. The ones people are most excited to see are Iron Fist Hong Young-wook and the druid Lee Gilson. Then there's the god of thunder, Shin Yun-bok, and the next saint, Lim Ah-young. Besides these big names, tons of other talents are expected to participate this time. A huge crowd has also gathered, interested in watching this whole show. A young reporter is completely exhausted from the long distance she had to travel. Let me tell you, if she didn't cover this story, she was getting fired. And after seeing this massive crowd, she knew her chances of getting a decent scoop were practically zero. She'd never get to interview a single one of the awakened taking the test. As she sulked, Kim Taehyun himself appeared from behind the crowd, wondering why there were so many people. His voice immediately caught the attention of reporter Kim Ji-ja. She instantly sized him up as a potential candidate and snuck up right behind him, asking if he'd be willing to do an interview. A shot from above reveals the sheer scale of the stadium. Back in the waiting room, Kim Taehyun is called just minutes before the test begins, almost late thanks to that interview. He steps into the sealed room to find hundreds of other people inside, all waiting for the test to start. The sealed walls made it impossible to tell the time. Then some people's attention was pulled in one direction. Lee Ma-young had spotted a familiar face across the room. Kim Taehyun realizes she's here for the same test. The two exchange a quick hello, and she immediately notices how much taller he's gotten. She asks what he did to his body, and he just plays it cool, saying it was only training. She stared at him, wondering how he could change so much in just 1 month. Before she could ask about his training with Lai Yong-bae, a new voice cut her off. Suddenly, screens all around them flickered to life, showing the silhouette of a single man. The host announces the first test is about to begin. Now pay attention, because he's laying out the rules. First rule, everyone has a numbered plate on their chest. The objective of this first test is simple: collect 5 plates. And if you fail to protect your own, you're immediately disqualified. The time limit, he adds, is only 1 hour. The entire white room then begins to move and reshape around them. He finishes by saying that anything goes except for murder. And then he officially announces the start of the first test. Everyone is scattered to random places inside the massive, chaotic arena. Almost instantly, everyone charges Lima Young. Why? Because she's an S rank. She simply charges her power in her palm. The evaluators see the massive glacier she creates. They're all impressed by the talent of the so-called next saint, but they also have to praise the high skill level of the other participants. But among them all, one evaluator says he's particularly interested in a certain candidate. The one on the screen next to Shin Yunbak, the other S rank, who hadn't let anyone get close from the start. Most of them were wondering what a clash between these two monsters would look like. But Taehyun was only watching one specific candidate. He understood the interest in the S ranks, but you and I both know who the real star of the show is. He was confident Kim Taehyun would absolutely dominate. He stared at his screen, waiting, but all he saw was our guy struggling in an even fight with one candidate. Taehyun couldn't believe what he was seeing. He couldn't help but shout out in pure frustration. The awakened Hong Jong-wook takes a punch straight to his ironclad face. Kim Taehyun immediately gets the same blow right back, thanks to his opponent's stone skin. Believing he had completely misjudged him, Taehyun could only watch in total disbelief through the screen. Then it clicked: Kim Taehyun hadn't dodged a single attack. He and Hong Jong-wook charged at each other again to continue their duel. He deliberately threw himself right in front of the iron fist. The force of the blow easily shattered his rock armor. Hong Jong-wook screams at Kim Taehyun, thinking he's being underestimated. He roars that Kim Taehyun's ability is completely inferior to his own. And get this, he didn't even bother to dodge. Then, a terrifying aura fills the air. Kim Taehyun feels his stats climbing in the middle of the duel. He charges. Moving with inhuman speed, every blow he takes is just more training for him. For him, fighting at his limit is just practice, and he keeps trading blows. He pours all of his arm's strength into one single punch. In the clash, Kim Taehyun emerges the victor, shattering his opponent's iron skin. He looks extremely pleased with the results. Hong Jong-wook can only pass out. Overwhelmed by his powerful opponent's strength, he collapses onto his back. Completely out of energy, Kim Taehyun just stands over him, looking down. Wook, watching the duel from afar, can't help but celebrate his victory. He's yelling by himself in the room, while the other evaluators give him strange looks. But he's worried Taehyun might burn through too much stamina using this method. Especially for the entire test, he starts thinking the best tactic would be to save energy by hunting down the weaker ones first, then a shock. He's caught completely off guard by what he sees on the screen, along with everyone else. They see a rank C awaken acting totally irresponsibly. Obviously, they mean Kim Taehyun, and here's where it gets crazy. He's walking straight towards Shin Yunbak. Right after wiping out dozens of other people, they notice his body is covered in plates, saying he might actually be the strongest person in the entire test. Kim Taehyun starts counting his plates but stops, as long as he has more than 5. He figures it's enough. Suddenly, an electric aura erupts from his opponent. Okay, brace yourself. The main event is starting. An immense aura explodes. Growing even larger as he unleashes his power, Kim Taehyun dodges an electric blast. Shin Yunbak is actually delighted to see his enemy's speed from the start of the test. He thought everyone was way too weak to be entertaining with the soul. Exception of Lim Ah-young, who is the same rank as him. Shin Yunbok concentrates. He focuses his discharges once more for an attack. All 3 blasts are dodged. Kim Taehyun skillfully avoids every single one. He prepares his stone skin on his foot. He's about to launch a kick towards Shin Yunbok. The kick is immediately defended. Blocked by pure electricity, even Kim Taehyun is surprised by his defensive power. But Shin Yunbok praises him, saying he was so fast he couldn't even see the attack. His power erupts again, sending Kim Taehyun flying backwards. He is shocked. This god of thunder is on a whole other level. He possesses an ability capable of controlling lightning and a defense so massive he can just stand still. Attacking from a distance and up close, his destructive power is nothing to scoff at. Not something to be underestimated, Kim Taehyun focuses, trying to think of a way. A way that doesn't use his predation skill, which is currently sealed, to break through. Shin Yunbok sees that he's holding back and gets cocky. He asks if he wants him to advance instead. He is then stunned to see him. Running right towards him at blinding speed, he charges an enormous amount of lightning into his hand for an attack. He barely dodges just by turning his neck. Then a charged kick is delivered, but that too is successfully avoided. Hands crackling with energy lunge towards him again, numerous successive attacks. Shin Yunbok keeps attacking, completely tearing up the arena. He's having a lot of fun in the heat of the battle, and then he grabs Kim Taehyun. Hands and pours all his lightning straight into him. He's completely paralyzed by the immense energy surging through his body. Shin Yunbok just shouts that he should be running if he even wanted a chance to survive this fight. Kim Taehyun grits his teeth, ignoring the searing pain of the electric current ripping through his body. He puts everything into making his stone arm grow, but the sheer electric power shatters all the stones immediately. At the same time, the blast forces Kim Taehyun to raise his arms to cover his eyes, but Shin Yunbok is already in the air, delivering his next electrifying attack with full force. His hand drops, and a colossal bolt of lightning slams directly into Kim Taehyun. The attack absolutely obliterates the area around him. He can barely withstand the discharge of thousands of volts. And get this, Shin Yunbok actually praises him for surviving that much raw power. He thinks to himself that he's happy to have found such a fun new toy for this test. But in Shin Yunbok's moment of distraction, a rock flies right at him, smacking his forehead and snapping his head clean back. He is totally stunned by the blow. Instantly, Kim Taehyun is behind him, whipping another rock at his back. This one hits his chest with brutal force and precision, making even Shin Yunbok cough up blood. His stone skin is nothing compared to the god of thunder's ability. Even at its peak, it would just get shattered by his power. But pay attention, because the test field itself is different. It's built from a material that can withstand the power of a first-class awakened. So it won't lose its shape, even when it ends up cracking. So Kim Taehyun's real plan was to use the broken stones. Small or large, he found lying around to attack Shin Yunbok until he could finally break his enemy's supreme defense. Then he grabs a huge stone to strike with all his strength. This material is tough, capable of withstanding the power of a first-class awakened, so it maintains its shape even when it cracks. It's the perfect weapon. With the boy's defeat, the audience goes wild, wondering how an S-rank lost to a C-rank and just who this Kim Taehyun is. After defeating the kid, he gathers the last pieces he needs for the tournament. Now all he has to do is wait for the test to end. But while distracted, he's hit by a surprise ice attack. He looks in the direction the spell came from and sees another one. Same type, only much larger, hanging right over him. In that moment, a girl named Lim Ah-young appears directly in front of him. With this girl so close, he's confused and wonders why she was there and how long she'd been watching them fight. But as she approaches our protagonist, the girl states she believes that great power comes with great responsibility. Because power without that responsibility is just plain violence. She says that Kim is strong, but she never thought he would defeat Shin Yunbak in such a brutal way and assumes he probably beat Lai Zhongjai the same way. Right after, a chilling aura explodes from her, her eyes glowing a pale color as she uses her powers to launch a massive attack aimed right at our hero. He immediately realizes that the girl's snow is like a bomb, making stealth or any other tricks totally useless against her. The girl then manages to land a clean, powerful hit. In that moment, she says that back at the gym, she actually believed in him. I think we all did, right? She thought he was different from other kids like Lai Yong-jai, that he wouldn't act recklessly, driven only by his own self-interest. But after watching him fight, she realized the truth, claiming it was all his fault. She then unleashes a relentless barrage of incredibly powerful strikes, putting our protagonist in a desperate corner. Afterwards, she lectures him that using abilities without permission is a crime, reminding him that those two boys are still stuck in the hospital. However, after everything he's been through, she won't report him if he quits the player tests. She looks down on him, saying he doesn't deserve to be a player. But our hero struggles to his feet, asking who the hell she thinks she is, especially since she couldn't even stop Lee Yong-ya's tyranny. And now, after all that talk, all she really wants is to eliminate him from the competition. He says he would have preferred she used the test itself as an excuse instead of acting so pathetic. Those words hit a nerve, and her entire face changes completely. And right here is where she decides to stop holding back. She channels her power, creating a massive staff of ice, and declares she's done playing games. She will eliminate him with this. At that exact moment, he realizes his stone skin has been shattered so many times that it's completely useless now. Even if he uses stealth, her wide area attacks will sniff him out. The power boost from the monarch's heart is already active, but it's just not enough to change the game. On top of that, Predation is still sealed, and he has nowhere near enough stamina to paralyze her like he did with Lee Yong-jai. In the end, he has only one chance left to win. The clash between them continues, tearing the entire arena apart, and you are not going to believe how this ends. A brilliant flash of light explodes from the stage, and the audience has no idea what is going on since they can't see a single thing. But as the light finally begins to fade, everyone is completely shocked by the scene. They see the protagonist and the girl on the ground, locked in a passionate kiss. But this wasn't just a kiss. In reality, it was a paralysis skill, a status effect ability that triggers at point-blank range instead of a distance. And whether it's a direct hit or not, these skills have an insanely high chance of success. Our protagonist infused his blood with paralysis and made her swallow it. But considering an S-ranker has monstrous resistance, this should have just been a minor annoyance. I know, right, but somehow she couldn't resist. The girl becomes completely paralyzed. Then, a notification pops up on his system. He has inflicted immense psychological shock on his opponent. As a result, his charm stat increases by 3. Just then, the announcer declares that the first round has officially ended, and the medical team will be moving everyone to a safe location. So they ask every participant to remain exactly where they are. After the round ended, all the injured participants were immediately treated by the medical staff. But even though Lim Ah-young was paralyzed, she still had her test plaques and was a competent fighter, so she passed the first round. As for our protagonist, despite only grabbing 7 plaques, he unexpectedly took down Shiny Yunbak and Lim Ah-young. And just like that, you and I just watched him become the talk of the entire event. All the other participants who saw him immediately started wondering about his rank, who he'd beaten, and what kind of cheap tricks he might have pulled. Moments later, he was analyzing his own healed body, thinking that their healing abilities, which is a huge upgrade since he couldn't even walk before. But then Shin Yanbok shows up, hungry for a rematch against our protagonist. He tells him that this time, none of the tricks he used in the arena are going to work. As the rematch kicks off, the young man unleashes a massive amount of aura. As they face off, other players start gathering to watch, and you know it's a big deal when one of them points out that Shin is just trying to get revenge. Meanwhile, another kid says he doesn't care if Shin gets eliminated, he just wants to see him go all out and absolutely crush our protagonist. But hearing this, Shin gets seriously pissed off, telling them this fight has nothing to do with them and that they should just shut up. Then, Shin Yambok declares he's going to prove that, without cheap tricks, our hero is nothing in a clean fight. But before a single punch is thrown, everyone there, including the two of them, gets slammed to the ground by intense gravity magic, and here's where it gets wild. The man who cast the spell slowly starts to approach them. As he does, he asks if these kids aren't going to let anyone get some rest around here. He adds that they're acting like they don't know their place. This guy is the S-rank player Park Seung-jin, one of the top players in the New Korea Association. At that moment, our protagonist tries to stand up despite the crushing gravity, which actually impresses the S-ranker. But then, Park just intensifies his gravity magic, making sure our hero can't possibly rise under that pressure. The protagonist thinks to himself that he'd heard the gap between an awakened S-rank and an actual S-rank player was huge, but he never imagined this. Meanwhile, player Park wonders how he's withstanding this much pressure, noting that even some veteran players couldn't take this kind of force. But before he can dial it up even more, he gets interrupted by the doctors in charge of the players. One of them storms over, demanding to know what the hell he thinks he's doing to kids who just got out of medical treatment. She asks if he's trying to wipe them all out before the second round even starts. Park just claims he wasn't trying to eliminate them, just control the situation. The doctor calls him out on his lie, saying she knows he pulls this every year just to test out the new players' abilities. Meanwhile, unlike the other players who are completely knocked out from Park's pressure, our protagonist is fighting it. And then he stands up, leaving the S-ranker completely stunned. We all knew he had it in him. Totally impressed, Park asks for his name, and he replies that he's Kim Taehyun. Park thinks to himself that this must be the C-rank player who already defeated both Shin Yanbok and Lim. Noting it's been a long time since anyone has caught his interest this much, he puts a hand on the protagonist's shoulder, saying it's clear his goal is to become an S-rank player, and asks if he's right. He says he'll be waiting for him at the top, and then just leaves the area. Of course, the doctors immediately start chasing after him, yelling about where he thinks he's going after causing such a huge scene. A few moments later, all the players who made it to the second round are transported to a forest where the S-rank player Park is waiting for them. He asks if everyone is ready after that short rest, and then announces the start of the second round of the player license test. The final challenge lies just beyond that portal. Enter. This portal leads to a D-rank dungeon, and he announced that every 5 participants who pass through it will get the chance to explore it with him as their supervisor. Their performance would be evaluated on every single action they take inside. Any gear, like weapons or supplies, would be provided by the association. The main character figured that a dungeon for the second round made sense, especially for a rookie. Stick with me, because this test is about to go sideways. A D-rank dungeon shouldn't be a problem, right? Besides, active players are with them, unless it's a double dungeon called Apocalypse. Inside a D-rank dungeon. At this very testing site, the world's first double dungeon was discovered. This event led thousands to their deaths, including the group that first found it. This also triggered dungeon breaks in countless other undiscovered dungeons. So he figures he could stop all this with just a simple warning. But here's the thing, no one would believe him without proof. Even if they did, he might just end up being the main suspect. That'd be embarrassing, but he'll just have to deal with his own survival, as long as he's not in that first group. He can always find a way to make it out alive. But upon entering, he realizes he's now part of the one group he desperately wanted to avoid. The group's supervisor asks if everyone is ready to go. The supervisor here is an A-rank player named M. Hawk, the very first person to discover the Apocalypse double dungeon. With a grim look on his face, the protagonist knows he's in deep trouble. Now you and I can both see how bad this is getting. As they move deeper, monsters appear, but they're taken down with ease. The group's inspector applauds them, saying their combat intuition is remarkable. Even for a first real battle, he says they've got the makings of true players. Just then, a girl in the party gives them a sharp look. The protagonist wonders why, out of all the teams, he had to end up with this one. He has absolutely no doubt this is them. The ring M. Hawk is wearing is the one item the first discoverer of the double dungeon was known for. That is the Sage's Ring, a unique ranked item that boosts strength, stamina, speed, and mana tenfold. Right now, he's certain the Apocalypse dungeon is definitely S-rank. And if he falls in, he has zero chance of survival with his predation skill sealed. Okay, let's be real, what's his next move? He just needs to make sure they don't find the Apocalypse. Walking deeper in, they find a fork in the road with two different paths. One of the members asks the inspector what to do in this kind of situation. The inspector explains that this is common and they should decide by majority vote. But then, all of a sudden, the main character just bolts down one of the paths. Panicked, the inspector screams at him to come back, yelling that running off like that is incredibly dangerous. But our guy just shouts back that it's fine and that this is the path they should follow. He thinks to himself, was he really going to let them decide? Not a chance. He was going to force them onto a path different from the one in his past life. Anything is better than letting them find the Apocalypse. His crazy plan is working. The entire group is following him, but then a portal shimmering with purple and pink hues appears. It appears right in front of him, a portal inside a dungeon. How is that even possible? Then the chilling realization hits him. He's found it, the infamous double dungeon portal, and trust me, this is where it all goes wrong. All his work to steer them away from this location was a complete waste. To make it worse, a team member suggests they should go check out what's inside, but our main character knows better. He orders everyone to stop, asking if they're blind to the danger. A second portal, different from the entrance, is a massive red flag. This is completely wrong, and he insists they have to report this anomaly. He turns to M. Hawk for backup, asking if he agrees. M. Hawk admits he's never seen anything like it, and by the rules. Reporting it to HQ is absolutely the correct move, however. He suggests they take a peek just this once. He says he gets the protagonist's point. But the mana signature from inside the portal doesn't feel dangerous at all. Besides, it's just a D-rank dungeon, even if something crazy happens. He, an A-rank player, is right here. He figures either the association planned this, or this is an extremely rare occurrence. Exploring it will score them major points. Now, you and I both know this is a terrible idea. Our hero can't believe it, asking M. Hawk if he's lost his mind abandoning protocol. But M. Hawk fires back, questioning if someone who can't even work with a team has any right to talk, hearing that from their own inspector. The entire group immediately turns on our main character. After all, just moments ago, he was the one running carelessly through the dungeon. One of the guys scoffs that just because he's a little skilled doesn't mean he can forget his place. Another one remarks that he can't believe our guy is talking back to an active duty player. So arrogant, with most of them siding with the inspector. They choose to enter the second portal. Our hero makes one last attempt to stop them. He says he needs to speak with the inspector, but with a simple snap of his fingers. M. Hawk fills the entire area with a blinding light inside the new dungeon. The team immediately senses something is terribly wrong. They suspect this is actually an S-rank dungeon. At the far end of the hall, they see it. A giant, terrifying statue holding a massive sword. And yeah, this is exactly where things get insane. The group panics, asking M. Hawk what's going on, if he was sure this was D-rank. That's when our protagonist cuts in, telling everyone to be silent. He instructs them to only look straight ahead. Hearing this, one of the members complains that our hero is still being rude, but the protagonist simply replies, "Something's coming," and right on cue, two more statues appear. A-rank Death Knights. This reveal leaves the group absolutely frozen. They wonder how they ended up here, as the now terrified inspector screams at them. To prepare for battle, the inspector then clashes with the two statues. It's an intense fight, but using his power, he actually seems to be holding his own. That's the signal. The rest of the team jumps into the fray. They fight alongside their inspector, quickly forming a strategy to block the monster's vision. They shield the front line and keep attacking, giving the enemy zero space. After finally taking the monsters down, a girl in the group speaks up, but what she says next changes everything. She says they're safe now, admitting she didn't think they could beat A-rank monsters. One of the guys celebrates way too early, acting like it was nothing. He claims he could do it all over again, but as he boasts, more statues light up behind him. And you guessed it, not just two this time, but four. With these new statues appearing, the entire group starts to panic. Meanwhile, our main character is analyzing the statues, realizing something is off. Moments later, the fight is back on, but the battlefield is a lot more crowded. The inspector watches as the number of statues just keeps growing. He finally notices, every time they kill one, a dozen more show up. On top of that, everyone is already hitting their absolute limit. At this rate, it's a total party wipe. Kim tells the inspector that there's something seriously wrong with this dungeon. The inspector looks at our protagonist, wondering who this kid really is. After all this fighting, he's not even breaking a sweat, and he was the first one to sense that the portal was a trap. Without his attribute boost, the monarch's heart wouldn't have had a prayer. The inspector seriously questions if he's really just a C-rank hunter. In total shock, he asks Kim what he means by "something is wrong." Our guy replies it's just a hunch, but those things aren't Death Knights. And just like that, absolute despair hits the party. I mean, can you even imagine? If they aren't Death Knights, then what have they been fighting this entire time? Just then, our protagonist picks up a sword from a fallen monster. He declares he's about to find out the truth right now. Then he charges full speed, straight at the horde of statues. But he ignores all the small fry, heading directly for the biggest one. His gamble pays off. He shatters the giant statue in a single strike. The moment it breaks, the entire scenery of the dungeon completely changes. The main character reveals the truth. It was all an illusionary trap. A trick designed to wear intruders down with a fake world and fake enemies. One of the guys explodes in frustration. All that effort for a simple illusion. A girl then asks if this means even worse monsters are about to show up. The inspector, still confused, asks our hero how he knew it was a trap. After all, it's not like he's fought a real Death Knight before either. The protagonist just says that even without experience, he knew one thing. There's no way the real enemies could have been that pathetically weak. Those words leave the inspector completely speechless. But our hero says they need to keep moving before they become just a memory. Even with the illusion gone, their situation hasn't gotten any better. The apocalypse has manifested, and the dungeon space has transformed. The wounds they took in the illusion fight are getting worse, but they can't afford to stop and wait for backup. Their only hope is to find the exit. After walking for what feels like an eternity, they finally spot a portal. But despite finding it, the masked kid asks if it might be another trap. The inspector replies it could be, but if they stay here, they'll die anyway. So he opens the portal, and trust me, they are met by a real Death Knight. Seeing the monster, our hero smirks, just one enemy, easy, or so he thought. But as the light floods the chamber, more of them appear and more, filling every corner. And this, my friends, is where you and I realize just how royally screwed they are. Someone asks in a panic if they are all Death Knights. And right on cue, the dungeon's leader appears, laughing, mocking the inferior humans who managed to get this far. He orders them to begin the fight. This guy is the lord of all the Death Knights. An S-rank threat, at his command, the statues lining the room begin to move. They advance on the group, but they don't attack right away. It's almost ceremonial. Our protagonist analyzes the situation and figures it out. They want one-on-one duels. Terrified, one of the guys yells that he can't fight. He's completely out of mana. But our hero tells everyone to calm down. Their goal isn't to fight a battle. It's to escape, and with that, the group starts running for their lives. Total desperation, except for Mohawk and the girl still unconscious on our hero's back. As they run, the others scream they would rather go back to where they started. Anything but dying in here, but at that moment, it was already too late for them. A statue swings its massive sword, hitting all three of the runners in a single blow. Seeing this insane attack, our protagonist declares he'll buy them some time. He tells Mohawk to find an escape route, but watch this, Mohawk shoves him back instead. He pushes our protagonist and the girl behind him, creating a massive wall with his power. Kim screams, asking what he's doing, but Mohawk just orders him to stay quiet. He calls Kim a useless, non-awakened nobody who should know his place. He tells him to stop acting so full of himself, then admits something personal. When he was younger, all he ever wanted was to become an S-rank player. But no matter how hard he trained or improved, he was always miles away from that goal. It only got more distant with each passing day. He thought this was his big chance. If he could handle this one situation, maybe people would start treating him like an S-rank. But in the end, this is how it all turned out for him. Just then, a statue charges him, but Mohawk handles it with surprising ease. After the fight, he says that Kim is different, and that infuriates him more than anything. But he also admits Kim has real talent. That's why he needs to take the injured and run as far as possible. As their supervisor, fighting here is his responsibility. His duty, but when our protagonist looks at the injured men, he realizes the truth. Let that sink in for a second, they're already dead. Moments later, the wall is destroyed. Mohawk is completely overwhelmed and utterly defeated, losing his life in an instant. The statue that killed him raises its sword and turns toward our protagonist. It's a challenge to a duel. Cornered with no way out of this situation, he looks down and spots the ring Mohawk was wearing. At that exact instant, the statue attacks, but he manages to dodge and grab the man's ring. As he runs, he puts the ring on his finger. This is his only chance to survive. He commands the ring to awaken, causing a massive explosion of raw energy. And trust me, this power-up is everything. The blast destroys the statues trying to kill him. The dungeon boss is shocked, wondering what kind of insane power this could possibly be. By putting on the ring, all the conditions for its use were finally fulfilled, unsealing Predation. On top of that, all of his attributes increase by 10 points each. Our protagonist then unleashes a devastating amount of mana, and everything goes white, sending his enemies flying, but in the chaos, he realizes Predation is too slow. It takes a full 10 seconds to devour a single target. He can't rely on it. Time to go all out, every attribute, every skill he's earned so far. It's the only way he's getting out of this dungeon in one piece. Just then, he spots a massive spear glowing with raw energy. He wonders what it could be, but a single gesture from the boss gives the order. Now pay attention, because every statue hurls a spear straight at him. With incredible effort, he dodges the volley and the statues charging in. He finally comes face to face with the dungeon boss himself and tries to make a move. But the boss just smirks, using an ability that blasts our hero far away. He taunts him, saying while he was strong for a human, that was his limit. With that, our protagonist is completely and utterly overwhelmed. Pinning him down with his sword and his foot, the boss lines in. He says there's one last thing he wants to know. He asks who gave him his power. But all our hero can do is scream in pure agony and pain. Suddenly, a system window pops up. a mysterious power is at work. It's resisting the roar of the Night King, and the resistance was partly successful. The dungeon boss notes that he already knew the truth. Unlike normal humans, our hero could understand his language. He asks again, "What is the nature of this mysterious power?" Then the scene shifts. "Okay, I know what you're thinking. What is happening right now?" A massive four-armed monster with long horns appears before him. To his side, he sees the bodies of his fallen party members. Behind him, the boss. Nothing looks the same. He starts to question everything. What exactly is this ability called predation, and how can a mere human understand the language of monsters? He realizes he knew nothing. He was just given this power, this one single chance, and yet nothing has really changed. Just then, the boss unleashes a fatal attack. Even staring death in the face, Kim wonders why the king gave him this power. A voice echoes in his mind, saying the reason was already given. A shirtless man appears under a spotlight, explaining it simply. He was moved by Kim's sheer determination and his refusal to ever give up. The man tells him he wasn't meant to change, but simply to move forward. It was all a dream, but when Kim's eyes snap open, this is the moment we've been waiting for. They're glowing red, filled with pure, unbridled rage. The boss just scoffs, thinking he has no strength left to answer. He calls Kim pathetic, declares this is his end, and readies the final blow. But just before the attack hits, the protagonist finally reacts. A strange power erupts from him, obliterating several statues in an instant. Seeing this, the boss gets excited. He asks if Kim is trying to go berserk, trying to trigger a frenzy with what little power he has left. At that exact moment, Kim's mana begins ticking up, one by one. Absolutely thrilled, the boss declares this final struggle is excellent. He promises to entertain him until the very, very end. The boss then charges, his sword erupting with tremendous magical force. Thinking he landed the final blow, the boss realizes his powerful attack did absolutely nothing as Kim stops it cold. Kim then asks if he's curious about where this incredible power really comes from. The boss demands to know, but our hero just tells him to find out for himself, and trust me, you're gonna wanna see this. As his power skyrockets, Kim's system announces he's just hit B rank. Kim then unleashes a single, devastating blow that sends the boss flying. After that, he just mops the floor with the remaining statues, his strength completely overwhelming them. Realizing defeat is near, the boss questions how an inferior human like Kim could ever reach this level. He even tries to use an ability to trap our hero, but it fails completely. At this moment, the protagonist declares his power isn't human at all, and I know what you're thinking. Yep, it's the power of the king. Finally, Kim launches one last crushing attack that the boss has zero chance of surviving. With that victory, his system dings again, notifying him that he's acquired a brand new ability. The new skill is called the Spirit of the Night King. Okay, let's pause here, because outside, a whole other drama is unfolding. A group of hunters gathers in front of the portal to analyze it. Player Park asks a woman for the magic reading on the gate. Her answer, it's an S-rank portal. She adds that an evacuation order was sent out, but a strange distortion inside the dungeon is slowing down the withdrawal. Because of that, she has no idea if a support squad will make it before the whole thing breaks. Player Park realizes that at this rate, every single person left inside the dungeon is basically dead. So he decides he has to go in alone to make sure they all get out alive. Just then, the portal starts pulsing with even more energy, making them think the dungeon break is happening right now. For safety, Player Park tells everyone to brace for the absolute worst. But walking out from the portal, our main character all by himself. Kim says it was close, but he managed to make it back from the dungeon. And just like that, thanks to him, the entire incident is over. And the test takers are evacuated with no major problems. The final results of this round are decided based on evaluations taken before this whole mess even started. On top of that, The bodies of the fallen are recovered and returned to their families, completely intact. A decision is made to keep the identity of who cleared the apocalypse dungeon a secret. A bit later, the director is talking with two hunters, one is Park, about what happened, mentioning that they had to deal with some serious backlash from the corporation. But if they told the truth, it's obvious our hero would become a massive target for both the media and every villain out there. Hearing that, the two players get the picture, and the director thanks them for their understanding. He then asks what they really think about the man who cleared an S-rank apocalypse dungeon. In response, Player Park says that if our hero managed to clear an S-rank apocalypse dungeon solo, he has to be at least S-rank himself. But the other player points out that since his current rank is lower, it's almost impossible to gauge his true strength. Hearing this, the director asks what exactly they're trying to say, and the two hunters just exchange a look. Then one of them replies that there's a high chance he's on the level of a national power. You and I just saw where this story is headed, straight to the top. He finds himself under a blood-red sky, surrounded by ridiculously powerful monsters. Stuck in this nightmare, he tries to figure out how he even got to the abyss. And that's when a king appears, floating in the sky above him. The monsters try to attack, but with a single gesture, he turns them all into ash. The king then declares he'll be waiting for our hero in the deepest part of the abyss. Just like that, the protagonist snaps awake, finding himself in a hospital bed. He'd been admitted for the insane injuries he got back in that S-rank dungeon. Waking up, he wonders if it was all a dream, but something tells him it wasn't. No way, it felt way too real to be just a simple nightmare. He also can't stop thinking about what the king meant by waiting for him. Then he remembers his predation ability, a skill even S-rank monsters recognized. Not to mention, he can now understand the monster language, so many questions. He comes to one conclusion, get stronger and head to the abyss. It's the only way. He pulls up his player stats and yep, they're exactly what he thought they'd be. He was the Lord of the Death Knights, but now he's officially advanced to B rank. And with stats like these, he could probably go toe-to-toe with an S-rank player. After all, he knows predation is the same skill that once crushed him with its power. At this rate of growth, it won't be long until he's at the level of a national power. Suddenly, he hears a commotion right outside his hospital room door. It sounds like someone is trying to force their way in, but the guards are stopping them. A visitor complains, yelling that it's outrageous they won't let her see a patient. She says that even as the association president, this treatment is just plain wicked. Now pay attention, because she just bursts right through the door, asking our hero a question. Don't you agree? She asks. He looks down and sees every guard who tried to stop her. They're all lying on the floor, completely knocked out cold. She didn't hold back. After asking if he agrees with her, she then drops a bombshell and calls him dear. A little while later, they're in a car, and a young man suggests he should drive. But the woman shuts him down, saying she'll drive her own guest herself. She is the one in charge here, and she's going to handle this personally. Our hero finally asks what the guild master of the Wanderers, one of the 4 great guilds, could possibly want with a player like him. The woman just says she's taking him home. Just taking him home and checking out the guy who somehow survived the apocalypse dungeon. Hearing this, Kim sarcastically replies that if that's her only reason, she could have at least come up with a more believable lie than that one. The woman just laughs and admits he's sharp, then she asks if he knows about the player tests. Specifically, what's going to happen in the 3rd round of the tests. The 3rd round is a survival game, a lot like the very first one was. But this time, outsiders will be allowed to watch the whole thing as an audience. Because of that, his real abilities are going to be exposed to the entire world. Every guild will be fighting to recruit the low ranker who cleared an S-rank dungeon. So let's pause here, because she's about to make him an offer he can't possibly refuse. Money, fame, power. She's willing to give him anything he wants to join the Wanderers Guild. After she lays it all out, the car goes completely silent. You could cut the tension with a knife. He thinks over her incredible offer for a moment, weighing his options carefully. And then he just says no, and trust me, Bona was not expecting that at all. Completely stunned by his response. Moments later, the protagonist, the guild master, and her young associate find themselves in a deserted alley. Our hero thanks them for the lift but says he'll walk from here, and you and I are about to see this go south fast. The guild master immediately asks why he turned her down. Did he even listen to her proposal? She presses him. Money, power, anything he could possibly want, she was ready to make it happen. So she demands to know, did another guild get to him first? Or was this all just some big misunderstanding on his part? Kim tells her not to overthink it. There's no specific reason for turning her down. He has no other offers, no special conditions. He then asks if the Wanderers Guild is really that big of a deal. In the end, he says he refused simply because he didn't want to, and with that, he turns to leave. But as he heads down the steps, before he can even react, a hand grabs him from behind, covering his mouth. Now watch this, the friendly chat is officially over. Radiating a dangerous aura, she gets right in his face, asking what his problem is. She points out he's a brand new player, yet he dares to reject one of the 4 major guilds for absolutely no reason. It just doesn't add up. She pulls her hand away, saying she'll forgive his little outburst. In fact, she admits he's actually managed to catch her interest. But just then, the young man with them cuts in, reminding her the protagonist is still in his testing phase. He questions what she's even doing. He turns to Kim, telling him not to be an idiot and just accept the offer. After all, every player has to join a guild sooner or later. But our hero sees right through her. This stubbornness is exactly what he expected. It all makes sense, considering she's the sister of a man named Limian. The woman freezes, completely shocked, and demands to know how he knows about that. Kim just smirks, saying he knows a lot of things, including her real, stolen name. Realizing her deepest secret is out, she explodes with a massive wave of mana that shoots into the sky. Her assistant knows this is bad, utterly disastrous. The guild master's real name isn't Yuhyun, it's Lim Ayan. She was raised by Lim Changyan, the CEO of the Usyan Group, as his illegitimate child. His heir. But when another daughter was born into the main family, his name was stripped away and she became an outcast. The fact that she changed her name after becoming a player was a secret. Only a handful of people in the entire world were supposed to know. With her hands now wrapped around his neck, she snarls, asking how he dares to spout such nonsense. Is he trying to get himself killed? He just calmly replies that she's the one who started this. At that moment, his system alerts him. A mysterious force has resisted the spirit of the Amazon. Kim grabs her arm, unleashing his own energy in response. And his system confirms it, a successful counter using the spirit of the Night King. With just a single push of his energy, he sends the powerful guild master flying backward. Stunned, she can only wonder what kind of insane power he's hiding. Not only did he resist an S-ranker's ability, he completely reversed it. He walks up the steps, corners her, and pins her against the wall. And trust me, what he says next is absolutely brutal. To cross that line, and for just a second, the woman actually blushes. Her assistant, looking awkward, wonders if Kim really just said that. Days later, we're at the 3rd round, held inside a massive ancient Roman arena. And unlike the first 2 rounds, you and I get to see this one live. The arena allows spectators, industry insiders, participants, families, and even regular civilians are packing the stands to watch the tests. Among those civilians is Yui Yang, disguised in the crowd to watch everything unfold, and she's still blushing over our protagonist. Also in the crowd is his father, who says that thanks to Kim, he gets to experience something amazing like this. His mother, however, asks if everything's going to be okay, since she heard these player tests are incredibly dangerous. At that moment, a young man tells her not to worry, because Kim is on another level. He even boasts that Kim could probably take out all the other players with a single hit. This kid with total confidence in our protagonist is Gwang Jae-young, his cousin, who also happens to be president of his fan club. Shortly after, a woman in the stands overhears their conversation and thinks to herself that she has to land a headline this time. This is Kim Ji-ja, a rookie reporter for SSY Economics, who is dangerously close to getting fired. For a moment, she remembers her last interview, which got thrown out because it was with some low-ranking awakened. She even considers the possibility that our main character might have already been disqualified from the tests. With tears in her eyes, she knows she'll lose her job if she can't score a good interview. Just then, another young man in the stands asks if the atmosphere in here doesn't feel a little strange. Hearing his words, the reporter finally notices that countless high-ranking veterans, and even Lee Gilson, a super promising A-ranked candidate, are all staring at one person. Now pay attention here. This makes her wonder if they're all planning on ganging up to take our protagonist down. And also, just how strong could he possibly be? A moment later, the start of the third round player test is announced. The audience is warned to be careful of any impacts from the arena. Then, the host declares the test has begun. Immediately, the group starts powering up. They all charge toward our boy, yelling that they have to get rid of him now. They know he's the one who already defeated 2 S-ranks back in the first round. Because of that, if they don't eliminate him first, he's just going to pick them all off. Soon, our hero appears right in the middle of their attacks, landing a single punch on each of them. A shockwave erupts and a dozen people drop, unconscious. Our protagonist just watches everything in complete silence, and yeah, we're just getting started. Suddenly, a strange spell hits him dead on. Confused, he asks what that was. An unknown challenger gloats that while he beat 2 S-ranks, letting his guard down was a fatal mistake. And for that reason, he'll be the winner of this test. Big mistake. Within a second, our protagonist absolutely flattens Lee, who takes massive damage. Coldly, our boy looks around and asks who's next. The entire group starts attacking all at once, thinking that if they keep the pressure on, he'll eventually get worn down. But get this, Kim just points a finger at the mob and summons the spirit of the Night King. An intense light explodes. All right, let's jump right in as a massive monster appears above our boy, looming over everyone. People look on in horror, some even starting to collapse from the pressure. The other groups see this and start to completely lose their minds. Meanwhile, the crowd in the stands watches the entire spectacle in dead silence. One kid comments that he never should have used that skill in the middle of everything. Kedem, on the other hand, is relieved. It's finally over. Now there's just one thing left. But just then, a girl with blue hair steps onto the field. She looks pretty beat up from the last attack she took. Kim asks what Lin is planning to do, saying it doesn't matter if she quits now. She still has the option to just repeat the first round. But Lin just starts casting her ice magic, creating a huge sphere around the arena. Now pay attention, because she's just trapped our main character inside. She tells him to worry about himself, because this won't be like last time. With an icy stare of his own, Kim asks if she's really sure about that. The battle rages for a while, but in the end, the girl is defeated and collapses. Our protagonist notes that he expected nothing less from her, despite her attitude. She was still his most challenging opponent yet. The announcer declares that the player tests are officially over, with our hero as the top qualifier. A little later, we see the president presenting the rewards to the boy. He congratulates him on becoming a freshly minted S-rank player. He adds that he never expected Kim to finish the third round all by himself. Kim just says that the whole thing was pure luck. Hearing that, the man just goes silent. Then he calls out to him again, asking if he'd like to join the South Korean Player Association. Kim is completely stunned by the offer. The man asks him again what he wants to do. Kim thinks about how much has changed, a sleeper like him becoming an S-rank player. And he didn't just get any offer, but one from the leader of one of the greatest guilds. The single largest association in all of New Korea, in fact. And for that reason, the more he thinks he gets this world, the less he has a clue what's next. But even so, there was something else he wanted to do first. Okay, you and I both know what he should do, right? Well, he refuses the offer. He believes that working alone is better than joining one of the 4 major guilds. Because of that, he apologizes for not being able to help the president out. Hearing this, the man is just floored, then he bursts out laughing. He says he never imagined Kim would claim he's better off alone than with the guilds. This just proves the kid has an insane level of confidence in himself. So because of that, the president suggests something else instead of joining them. He asks if Kim might be interested in a little something called the Asian Exhibition Games. Sometime later, the scene changes. Our protagonist is deep inside a dungeon, surrounded by tons of monsters. But they're all wiped out in an instant. Kim feels relieved that another dungeon is cleared. He thinks back to what the president told him about those games. Now trust me, this is where it gets crazy. The Asian Exhibition Games is basically a festival. Guilds and associations from every country in Asia pick 5 of their best reps. These representatives then hunt monsters and compete against each other for glory. Stick with me because our guy needed proof, a record of the monsters he'd defeated. A flashback shows someone telling him that given his pace, it was the best path. And for our hero Kim, he thought this would be a great option for him. But talk is cheap. He'd just become a player and had to reach a level of merit. A level that took other people years to build, which meant he had to hunt monsters in dungeons that were way more dangerous, but even after clearing every dungeon that appeared in Korea for the last month, he didn't just fail to rack up enough merit. His own growth had completely stalled out, just as he feared. The whole thing was extremely dangerous. Even so, he had no other choice. He had to go to that place. The scene then cuts to a huge mansion. Okay, watch this. A glass is falling in slow motion, just as a man is being choked by someone else, desperately begging the president to calm down. But the enraged man screams that the Herr Dessous is still in the hospital, and the culprit who did it is just walking around free. He roars about how he's supposed to stay calm in a situation like this. Moments later, the man collapses to the floor, completely unconscious. Just then, a girl appears. She says there's a visitor from the notorious malicious guild. The man snaps. Why hadn't they dealt with our main character after all the money he paid? He declares he'll handle it himself, but then he's startled by an intimidating aura flooding in from the doorway. An unknown man appears, apologizing for his son's actions, but insisting that it's better to cool down. He asks if his real goal is to waste time on some kid. He introduces himself as the vice master of the malicious guild, known as Shadow. Then the scene jumps to a portal opening up in another location entirely. And someone is stepping out of it. A man calls out to him from before a door. He addresses him as a ranked player, saying the alchemists are ready to assist with the auction. Introducing himself as Park, he says it's a true honor to meet him, and even asks if he could get an autograph. Apparently, his performance in the 3rd test was nothing short of sensational. Park explains that this is Asia's most prestigious district for auctions. It holds the biggest and most magnificent events in all of Asia, with items of completely unparalleled quality. The district even has automatic translation. Among its many incredible features, East Point stood out for many reasons. But the one thing that truly captured everyone's attention, its absolute pinnacle, was the security. Sure, bodyguards like the ones here are always present. And yeah, they play a crucial role, but the real defense comes from something else. The teleportation points are constantly changing, making it impossible to get in without authorization. Because of this, they've had zero security issues for decades. Looking around, our hero thinks the title of Best Security System is well-deserved. But you and I both know what's about to happen on this very day. An S-rank villain is about to launch a massive terrorist attack right here. A while later, an announcer proclaims that the moment has finally come. The auction's most wanted prize is a potion that increases your health by 20 points with just a single sip, and watching all this from above. It's our main character, and trust me, he's just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. To get stronger, our main character needs to take down this S-rank terrorist. The problem, he's flying completely blind with no solid intel. All he knows is that the East Point incident was a complete and utter massacre. And the mastermind was an S-rank villain, a man named Narendra. So he has one burning question: who was the one to finally stop him? Just then, a security guard shows up. Kim asks who was running security that day. The guard is instantly suspicious, asking why he needs to know that information. Our guy just plays it cool, claiming it's only out of curiosity, and right then, the announcer's voice cuts in. He mentions that several S-rank players are present, and they all seem to be moving toward one specific area. You guessed it, right where Kim is standing. Now, pay attention to this guy. A man walks up, asking if his name is Kim. The guard whispers that he's an S-rank player from Japan. Not only that, he's the chief of security for this whole event. The guard warns Kim to be extremely careful around this one. He's known as the demon among players, infamous for betraying his own teammates. The man greets him, saying he's heard all about Kim, the new kid on the block. The so-called unprecedented genius from New Korea. He never expected to see him here. Kim watches him, his eyes catching one strange detail. The man is offering his left hand for a handshake, so Kim mirrors the gesture. But the second their hands touch, he feels something seriously wrong. It's like a powerful jolt of electricity. The man actually looks surprised. He can't believe Kim managed to endure that. The rumors must be true. Kim really is an S-rank, but then something even stranger starts to happen. You and I both see it. The people around them just start collapsing to the ground. Kim realizes if they fight here, civilians are going to get caught in the middle. The man just comments that maybe he went a little too hard on the rookie S-rank. He lets go of Kim's hand and steps in close, a clear warning. He says not all S-ranks are created equal, and while he doesn't know Kim's goal, he better stop whatever he's planning and stay in his place. As he walks off, he tells him to enjoy the auction. Kim just watches, silent. This situation just got way more complicated than he ever imagined. We cut to another building, where one group is moving in on another. Someone demands to know who these intruders are and how they breached security. An older man just scoffs, saying it doesn't matter how they got inside. There's only one portal control room, so if they've made it this far, their only goal is to be eliminated, and he says to leave the job to him. He's an A-rank player, this should be easy. Famous last words. The scene shifts. A monster is wiping the floor with everyone, the old man included. He's been defeated, a shadowy figure staring down at his broken body. More enemies arrive, and one of them reports a setback at the auction. He warns his boss that the S-rank player from Korea is at that location. The boss, Nero, just scoffs. Does this rookie really think he can do whatever he wants right under his nose? No one is going to escape. No one will escape his divine judgment. The scene cuts back. In an instant, the building explodes, and trust me, the main event has just begun. And just like that, the entire building is engulfed in flames. You and I are dropping right into the middle of the action where our protagonist is. He seems to be caught right in the blast, in just a few seconds. Every single building in the area is on fire. Back with the security guard, he screams, asking if the protagonist is okay and that they have to evacuate now. Kim thinks to himself, this makes no sense. He knew there'd be an attack, but this. He never expected explosions on this scale, tearing through everything. How did the villains get in? How were all these bombs planted? But he pushes that thought aside. Something far more important is happening right in front of him. A man is holding a weapon, taking civilians hostage. He threatens them all. Anyone who resists gets a bullet straight to the head, but in the next second, the guy is easily taken down by our main character. The security guard just stares, completely stunned. Kim orders the guard to call the association and tell them everything. He needs reinforcements because he's going to personally hunt down whoever is responsible for all this chaos. The scene then cuts to another location. A man scoffs, saying these are auction items, not for some common thieves. Seconds later, the order is given, take them all out, and trust me, the battle that breaks out is brutal. Bodies are already dropping. The man finally gets a chest open. Apparently, he found exactly what he was looking for, and yeah, it's that item from the auction earlier. The man smirks. Now he gets why Nero would go to such insane lengths for this potion, even putting his own life on the line. Just looking at it, you can feel the immense power. He was already imagining what would happen if he used it himself. But right at that moment, another massive explosion rocks the building. One of his men gets blasted backward. The leader has no idea what's happening. One of his subordinates screams that an enemy is nearby. Another one chimes in, saying the enemy's outline looks familiar, and I think we all know who he's talking about. But before he can finish that thought, he's instantly taken down. Then the two guys in front of him meet the exact same fate. The man is shocked. He realizes the ability must be stealth, but within seconds, he gets attacked too. It wasn't enough to finish him, though. So he activates his own ability, trapping our protagonist in a web of glowing chains. He calls the boy an idiot, asking if he really thought he could just turn invisible and do whatever he wanted. For that, he's about to die. But our protagonist is just surprised, noting that the ability can track even invisible targets. Because of that, he thinks to himself, it might just be worth devouring. The scene then shifts again. In another room, hostages are absolutely terrified. A horrifying number of monsters are surrounding them, just watching. This is the control room for the teleportation portal. Looking down on them all, Nero declares that everything is going according to his grand plan. With this, everyone will fear the existence of that god even more. Now, all that's left is the Phoenix potion. But just then, a subordinate rushes in. He's got news. It's about the group he sent to retrieve the potion. Looks like there's still a loose end. The subordinate hands him a communication device. On the other end of the line, a voice asks if he's speaking to Nero. Nero, annoyed, demands to know who's calling him. Our protagonist's voice comes through, cold and clear. He says he's the one who stole Nero's property. And he tells Nero that if he wants it back, he'll have to come get it himself, you coward. Calling him a piece of trash terrorist, he left the man absolutely fuming. Kim then chugs the potion, and trust me, his strength and magic stats just skyrocketed. At that moment, he realizes this potion was unique rank, something truly legendary. His attributes shot up in the blink of an eye, a power-up he's never experienced in a dungeon before. And by drinking the whole thing, he doesn't have to worry about it falling into enemy hands. Moments later, a new group of hunters arrives on a scene where several players are already lying defeated. One of them notes another man was supposed to be here based on his last signal, wondering if he just bolted. The head of security just laughs, asking them what they're even talking about, pointing out their target is right there in front of them. Now pay attention, this is where it all starts to unravel. He appears, mentioning that it's strange, since his invisibility should have been completely flawless. The man then asks why a hunter of Kim's S-rank would even be in a place like this. Kim fires back, asking if he isn't the head of security. And shouldn't he be trying to stop the terrorists? Laughing again, the chief says he's after a special item. Hearing that, Kim just smirks, saying he knew something was off. After all, despite the massive security, no one ever found the bombs. He also notes they got into East Point, a place that's impossible to enter without authorization. Because of all this, he had suspected a traitor, but never imagined it was the security chief himself. The head of security growls that he warned the protagonist to stay out of his business, then lunges straight at him. But our hero easily defends his sudden attack. During the clash, the man demands that Kim hand over the item. Kim just tells him if he's a real villain, he should try taking it by force. The battle explodes, with debris flying in every direction. Terrified by the fight, one of the henchmen warns the group that this is a battle between two S ranks. You and I know they shouldn't even think about interfering. On top of that, Real High, the security chief, is known as the Demon. If they're careless, they'll all end up dead. During the fight, Kim notices that unlike him, who uses sound and intuition, this guy can actually see him through his stealth skills. And then, despite his invisibility, Kim is struck by a fatal blow. He realizes the huge gap in their power. But it's still not time to use his devouring technique. Instead, he unleashes an ability that yanks all of his enemies into the air, as if he's using gravity magic. When they reach a pretty good height, he slams them all back down with immense gravitational force, dealing devastating damage to every single one of them. After throwing them all to the ground, our hero scans the area for the security chief. But he can't find the man anywhere among the fallen. A voice from the shadows mocks him, saying it was a good move, but invisibility is useless against area attacks. It adds that if he wanted to find him, he should have protected his own head. In that instant, the security chief charges at the protagonist with overwhelming power, radiating an insane aura. The impact he creates makes it look like he's completely crushed our hero. But as he stands over him, he suddenly realizes chains aren't just wrapped around the hero. They're wrapped around his sword, too. Our protagonist just scoffs, calling the guy a complete fool. This rattles the head of security, making him realize that last ability wasn't about finding him. It was to make sure he could never escape. As his chains flare to life, our hero asks, "Where do you think you're going?" Then he yanks him forward, pulling him back in for an absolutely devastating punch. And just like that, the head of security and his goons are completely defeated. A moment later, Kim demands to know why an S-rank player would sell out and become a criminal just for money. The villain furiously tells him to shut up, snarling that if Kim hadn't interfered, he'd be celebrating right now. But our hero interrupts him with an insanely powerful kick to the face. He tells him his tongue is way too loose for a common criminal. Now watch this, the kick is so strong it sends the man flying. Kim then tells him to deliver a message to Narendra Nero. He needs to tell him that requests for support are already flooding the hunter associations in every single country. Kim then asks if he gets it. With all those reinforcements on the way, both he and Narendra Nero are finished. But the head of security, totally beaten, just starts to laugh. He says, as expected, the hero is just a rookie who knows absolutely nothing. And those words leave our protagonist completely stunned. The scene cuts to an older man with white hair running through a building. He bursts into a room, asking about the reinforcements for the Eastern Wing. We learn this is Su Sang-huk, the guild master of the alchemists. That's one of the 4 major S-rank guilds. He's freaking out, saying his guild's auction items are there, not to mention countless VIPs from New Korea. At this rate, the terrorists are going to capture everyone. One of the men in the room tells Su Sang-huk to calm down, explaining that as soon as they heard about the attack, they organized a support team. Park Sun-jin is leading it, and he assures him it's an elite squad. So Sang-huk demands to know why they haven't left yet, saying if it's a matter of people or gear, his guild will provide everything. Okay, so what do you and I think the problem is? The man explains it's not resources. There's literally no way to get to the location. Su Sang-hyuk is confused. The man explains the terrorists have taken over the portal room in the East Wing. This means they've locked down every single access portal. But he says the situation is under control. After all, there are 2 S-rank players on site. Kim Taehyun, who just hit S-rank, and on the terrorist side, there's only Narendra Nu. Until the portal is back online, those two should be able to handle things, maybe even take down Narendra Nu. But just then, a woman walks into the room. She overhears this and speaks up. She says that kind of confidence only works if the enemy is an ordinary S rank. And trust me, this woman is none other than the famous player, Yue Young. Back with our hero, the terrorist asks if he's ever heard of the Skill Demon's Pact. Kim has absolutely no clue what he's talking about. The terrorist explains. Let me show you Narendra Nu's most terrifying skill. It allows him to sacrifice offerings, and depending on their quality, summon demons of equivalent strength. Naturally, our protagonist wonders what kind of offerings these could possibly be. The terrorist then asks what else Kim would sacrifice, if not people. Meanwhile, Yu and his team are discussing Narendra Nu's terrifying abilities. And when they learn the truth, the men in the room are left completely shocked. One of them points out Nu is holding at least hundreds of hostages. An elder adds that Nu is known as one of the most powerful S-rank players out there. If he used hundreds of people as sacrifices, it would unleash a massive disaster. At that same moment, our hero is beating down the head of security. But even while taking direct hits, the man just starts laughing, saying that Kim's luck has finally run out. Against Narendra Nu, he doesn't stand a chance. He then asks if our hero will kneel and beg for his life as the hostages are sacrificed, or if he'll charge into a fight with zero chance of victory and just die. I mean, what would you do here? Back with the terrorists. A subordinate informs Nu that Isaka Ryo, along with the guy who defeated Ryohei and took the Phoenix Potion, have disappeared without a trace. So Nu asks his men what their next move should be. He figures that since they can't be confronted directly, our protagonist is probably just waiting for backup from the association. Right then, Nu uses his power to sacrifice two hostages, declaring that if Kim won't show himself, they'll just have to drag him out. He roars that the festival in the name of the gods must now begin. But before he can harm anyone else, the entire room is suddenly plunged into pitch-black darkness. His men question why this is happening now, long after the initial bomb went off. But even in the total darkness, Nu notices that all the hostages have vanished in the blink of an eye, which can only mean one thing. A moment later, the protagonist appears right behind Nu with his magical chains. And here we go. Kim whips his chains and lands a direct hit on Nu. Thinking he's already won, Kim celebrates way too early, because from the folds of Nu's head, snakes erupt to counterattack. These snakes, infused with fire abilities, cause a massive explosion to protect their master. But despite the huge blast, our protagonist manages to dodge it. Looking at the situation, Kim wonders what kind of maniac hides actual monsters inside of his own head. Nearby, one of the hostages asks if he's the player Kim and if he came to save them. Absolutely terrified, the hostages beg for help, screaming that these monsters just appeared out of nowhere. Another even promises a fat reward if he saves them. But Kim just tells them they're in the way and uses his chains to fling them all to safety. Immediately after, several of the villain's monsters charge straight at Kim. They seem to land a huge hit, but Kim emerges without a single scratch. Using magic he'd already cast, Kim tries to pin the monsters down, but it has absolutely no effect on them. The monsters just move and counterattack, leaving Kim in total shock. I mean, what now? As the monsters swarm toward our hero, Nu just laughs and calls him naive. He explains that creatures born from his demonic pact are on it completely, but these monsters were nothing like what Kim had faced before. Thanks to his pact with the demon, Nu had absolute control over every monster he made. His power made them tougher and way stronger than any normal creature. He even taunted Kim, saying that beating the head of security meant nothing. He told Kim not to even think about challenging the gods. Meanwhile, the hostages saw our hero getting completely overwhelmed by the onslaught. One of them complained that Kim just ignored their pleas for help and did whatever he wanted, and now he couldn't even beat a single monster. But hearing this, Another hostage jumped to Kim's defense, telling the guy to open his eyes. Pointing at the battle, he explained that because of our hero, the monsters weren't even looking their way. And now pay attention, this is where everything changes. Kim hadn't backed down, and not a single monster had got near them. Even the hostages who were thrown into the air had been moved to a safe place far away from the chaos. With tears streaming down his face, an old man realized that from the very beginning, the protagonist was trying to save all of their lives, and they never even saw it. His words hit hard, and soon all the hostages were crying, starting to cheer for our hero. In the middle of it all, Kim starts using his chains to fight back, screaming that he's had enough. He roars at them all to shut up and stop getting in his way. Hearing this, everyone in the room is just stunned by his sudden outburst. The protagonist then yells that the hostages are just a distraction and that these monsters are endless. He shouts that the whole situation is so disgusting he can't take it. I know what you're thinking, did our hero just snap? The hostages looked furious at his words. Meanwhile, Nero just bursts out laughing, asking if the hero is finally admitting that he's been defeated. But right then, Kim calls out for player Jae Wung, who has shown up to end this whole mess. A second later, Jae Wung strolls into the room, making the terrorist leader freeze and demand to know who he is and how long he's been watching. Jae Wung just apologizes to our hero for being late and declares that the real fight is about to kick off. Rewind a few moments, right after Kim beat the traitor. He had told Jae Wung that the entire escort squad was secretly working with the terrorists. Jae Wung couldn't believe this all happened while he was still outside. But Kim told him they had bigger problems. He explained that the portal control room was probably swarming with monsters. If it was just the monsters, he could handle it, but they wouldn't just stand still. More importantly, the hostages could get caught in the crossfire. That's why he needed Jae Wung's unique portal manipulation skill. Jae Wung was hesitant, saying he wanted to help, but he couldn't pinpoint the exact location, which meant he couldn't access the association. Hearing this, our hero told him not to worry. All he needed was for Jae Wung to do one thing: get rid of every single monster in that room. Back in the present, Jae Wung opens portals all over the room, sucking the monsters inside. Watching this unfold, Nero starts freaking out, demanding to know what is going on. Jae Wung thinks to himself how insane this plan sounded at first, but now he can't believe Kim actually pulled it off. You and I just witnessed a perfect team-up. The terrorists think the fight is over, but Kim tells the last one his victory is a complete delusion. He yells at Jae Wung that his job here is done. Take the hostages and get out of the area. Hearing this, Jae Wung is reluctant, saying he wants to stay and fight by his side, but our hero immediately shuts him down. He explains that his opponent is now an S-rank player from this point on. He can't guarantee anyone's safety during the fight, as Jae Wung evacuates the hostages. Our hero and Nero prepare for their final epic battle. The clash begins with Nero sending out explosive snakes, but Kim manages to evade every single blast. Weaving through the attacks, Nero starts using rocks from the area to slam into our protagonist, while relentlessly attacking Kim. Nero asks if he actually thinks he's an S-rank. He mocks Kim, questioning if a kid like him could ever possibly stop him. Nero then lands a fire-based snake attack, sending our hero crashing hard to the ground. Afterward, Nero declares that it doesn't matter how many monsters Kim beats or how many hostages he saves, if he can't defeat Nero, every single one of his efforts was for nothing. With Kim lying on the ground, Nero calls him a filthy heretic as punishment for defiling God's name. Nero says Kim must pay with his life and orders his remaining monsters to attack, but just as the attack is about to hit, our hero starts laughing, asking what all the shouting is for. Still lying on the ground, Kim tells Nero he's the one who's about to meet God. Now watch this. In that single moment, our hero unleashes all the energy he had been suppressing. The power surge leaves Nero completely stunned, wondering if Kim had been hiding this much strength the entire time, laughing at our protagonist, Nero. Admits that Kim might make a first-rate sacrifice, but then he adds that Kim is not the only one with a few tricks up his sleeve. Kim hears coughing noises and looks over, noticing 3 of Nero's henchmen in really bad shape. One by one, the 3 of them begin to disintegrate. Nero recites the words for a ritual sacrifice using the lives of his own men, and just like that, you and I know the real fight has begun. As a result, an S-rank skeletal dragon with a terrifying green aura materializes. Meanwhile, Jan Wung is busy fighting other henchmen to keep the hostages alive. One goon asks what the deal is with these people, while another suggests they must have escaped. From one of the upper floors, the man decides that since they escaped from above, there would be absolutely no problem in taking their lives, but before they can do anything, their lives are suddenly taken as new sacrifices for Nero's ritual. Back in the main fight, Kim is getting increasingly pressured by the dragon. Riding on the back of the monster, Nero yells at Kim that dragons are still the strongest. Desperate to survive, Kim attaches a chain to the ceiling, trying to pull himself up to the next floor of the building and escape. At that moment he wonders where a monster like that could have even come from, but with no time to think, the monster appears right in front of him once again, before Kim can react. The dragon strikes him with its tail, sending him flying across the room. Meanwhile, Nero is shouting frantically at our protagonist to just die already. For a moment, Kim tries to use a power against the dragon, but it has absolutely no effect on the creature, with his attempt failed. The dragon unleashes its green flames, completely obliterating the entire area. You and I just witnessed a truly hopeless situation. Nero himself looks on, surprised that despite receiving that hit, even after an attack that powerful, Kim somehow managed to survive. Our hero clings to the walls with his chains, but he is completely devastated. Battered and broken, in that moment, Kim realizes this monster is on another level. Absurdly strong, he can't believe he barely withstood that last attack. And that was using the full power of predation. This makes him wonder something. Is this creature really just an S-rank, but with that much force unleashed? There's no way its own body could escape unharmed. Even in this state, the protagonist can see it. Nero is getting close to his limit. With that knowledge, if Kim can just hold on a little longer, he might actually make it out alive. But Nero just starts laughing, calling him a filthy unbeliever. He sees right through him. A direct fight didn't work, so now you're trying to stall for time. Not a bad strategy, he admits, but Nero tells him something chilling. You should know by now your petty tricks won't work on me. Then Nero moves. He and his dragon turn toward the hostages, ready to wipe them out in one blow. The building is hit with a devastating strike, causing massive destruction. Just then, reinforcements finally establish a solid connection with the emergency portal, locking onto the coordinates of the building's eastern point. A woman warns that her country and New Korea are the only ones connected. And even for a player of his caliber, she thinks entering now could be fatal. Hearing this, the player just scoffs, calling it nonsense. He tells her to think about the insane danger that boy is in right now. This gives the woman pause. The man doesn't hesitate. He declares they're going in, right now, through the eastern point. Time to take out some terrorists and rescue their allies on the other side. The hostages attacked by the dragon are, by some miracle, still alive. And standing right in front of them is our hero, fighting to protect them all. Nero laughs, saying he expected the protagonist to make this choice. To protect the weak, in that case he tells him he should just burn to ashes. Seeing him in such a desperate spot, one of the men yells at him not to worry about them. What good is it if he ends up dying for them? And you know what? The guy's right. The protagonist knows he can't win in a straight-up fight. The only path to victory is to push Nero past his absolute limit. But even so, he just can't bring himself to give up on these people. He racks his brain, trying to figure out how he can possibly save them all. As he's thinking, he suddenly hears a voice in the distance, saying they couldn't wait. Stunned, the protagonist whips his head around, looking for the source. But there's no one there except his fallen companion on the ground. And then something unbelievable happens. His power starts to shift. A system message pops up. His protection rank is being temporarily adjusted to a rank. His powers surge past their limits, and his body can barely handle the predation energy. The protagonist is in shock, wondering what is happening to him. All his powers are getting a temporary boost, and his predation just hit rank S. Just a moment ago, it was still rank A with so much raw power being unleashed. The entire area is flooded with a terrifying aura, making even Nero wonder. What in the world is going on? As his power keeps growing, his player system glitches out. And here's where it all goes wrong. Predation can't be turned off. Racked with pain, he realizes his own ability has gone completely rogue. He remembers that voice from before, wondering if the king gave him this power. But as his body literally starts to fall apart, he just can't believe it. Is this really how he's going to die? A meaningless death after all this? After everything he clawed his way through to get here, he refuses to accept it. He tries to fight back, to resist, but his disintegrating body isn't listening. He collapses to the ground, totally paralyzed, as Nero watches on. Did he really just push himself so hard that he broke his own ability? But then a terrifying energy starts flooding the entire area, making Nero question everything. Now watch closely, because the power level we're about to see is just ridiculous. For Nero, it's simple. The kid couldn't handle his own power and passed out. Yet, he's wondering why the ability is still raging, even though the user is unconscious. Furious, Nero demands to know how a mere, filthy unbeliever dares to do this. He sneers that if this is some suicide attempt to defy a god, he'll do the job himself. He charges forward on his dragon, moving in to kill the young man. But a massive blast of power erupts, slamming right into them. His dragon's leg gets blown clean off. Nero is stunned. What just happened? That's when the old man realizes it. The protagonist is back on his feet. And around the building, enormous, furious monsters have appeared from nowhere. Kim Taehyun just laughs, thinking back to the man who called himself a god. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. That's not our hero anymore. This new entity tells the old man not to worry, because he was already dead. Then he unleashes his new ability, striking Nero and his dragon directly. For a moment, our protagonist finds himself deep inside his own subconscious. He's bound by chains, wondering if it's stone skin or some kind of paralysis. A demonic entity looms over him. In agony, Kim Taehyun realizes what it is. These were his abilities. The demon just laughs at that idea. It tells him the power never belonged to him, and it's time to pay the price. The price for everything he's consumed. The creature then moves toward the boy. But then he tumbles out of his bed and wonders if it was all a dream. He has no injuries. His right arm, the one that collapsed from overuse, is fine. Perfectly fine. Just then, Seong-jin enters the room and they start to eat. The man explains that the house was prepared for him by the association. Both them and the alchemists set it up after the terrorist incident. He then reveals Ryohei has been arrested, and considering the scale of the attack. Many people actually survived, and the boy's relatives even came to visit. Seong-jin adds that all his medical results came back perfectly normal. He says he only stayed behind because he was concerned about the miners. Our protagonist stays silent. He clearly remembers losing consciousness. While fighting that golden alpid, he has to ask the man, when did that happen? Back in a flashback, after Nero's defeat, a civilian asks what that thing did. Kim Taehyun just uses his ability, and the man immediately starts coughing blood. Then with a twisted smile, you and I watch the demon say it will retreat for now. Right after, the boy faints. Later, Seong-jin and his men arrive on scene. Thankfully, there were survivors. a woman explains that everyone just seemed to have lost consciousness with no life-threatening injuries. However, something's wrong. The miners and the golden alpid completely vanished. As he holds our protagonist, the man can only wonder what on earth happened back there. Later, Seong-jin says the survivors only remember our hero trying to stop the beast. But they can't recall any details, almost like their memories were tampered with. The man stands up, convinced this is the work of those missing miners. As he leaves, Seong-jin tells our boy to just focus on getting better for now. If any new info comes up, he'll be the first to know. Kim Taehyun then starts thinking. He remembers how his arm fully regenerated after he collapsed from using too much power. He has a theory, maybe that power drain affected the golden alpid too. Suddenly, Jin pops back in, announcing that our hero has another visitor. In walks Lim, holding a fruit basket, which she places right on top of his meal. She asks if he's okay, having heard that he was injured pretty badly. She heard he saved a lot of people during what they're calling a terrorist attack. But standing there with two of her biggest rivals, the girl gets irritated. She crushes an apple, telling him he should act more arrogant after what he did. Kim Taehyun immediately demands to know what she's doing here. Lim Aeong gets nervous. She stammers that she's just visiting a sick person, obviously. But she can't help but wonder about the incredible aura pouring off of him. Then a knock at the door. Who could it possibly be now? It's Seong-jin. Lim Aeong demands to know what she's doing here and how she got the password. The answer's simple. The association provided it, right after Sis makes her move. She grabs our protagonist. Lim Yong loses it, questioning what she thinks she's doing. She shouts that it's a crime since he's still a minor. Kim Taehyun rips his arm free. He looks her dead in the eye and asks what she wants. Sis just smiles. She's just visiting, she says, and she even brought him a gift. Now here's where it gets interesting. She asks if he's aiming for the Asia-friendly games. Despite his recent fame, he's only ranked 30th. He needs a massive score to even dream of breaking into the top 5, and that's when Sis drops her offer. She's going to give him a dungeon. Meanwhile, in a hidden location, a man asks about the golden alpid, but his lackey says they still have no idea where it is. He asks if they should report back to the boss, but he gets shut down. The man says there's no need. Their primary objective has already been achieved. He was just a hired gun anyway. Elsewhere, a massive battleship corners a tiny boat. The captain orders them to lay down their weapons and surrender immediately. Big mistake, the ship is sunk in an instant by the mysterious man from before. He muses that our protagonist is very intriguing. Back at the Jeddah Nightwalker HQ, everyone is buzzing with excitement to see Kim Taehyun is joining their raid. But Sis makes it clear that even with him on board, they still control item distribution and team assignments. It's then that our hero is stunned to realize what her gift was. He wasn't just given a dungeon, he was given access to the Fire Temple. This temple is the entrance to the Scorching Flame, the second double dungeon ever discovered in the country. Before his regression, the Night Walker Guild did manage to clear it, but they were almost completely wiped out, and you and I both know that's where his knowledge of the future changes the whole game. Risk, it's a guaranteed way to boost your public reputation, but here's the thing. You and I know that with this much support, a double dungeon raid should be a cakewalk. Around 300 members were supposed to be on this mission. And yet, only our two heroes are actually going in. Kim Taehyun asks why, and she casually replies that this is a date. Stepping through the portal, the girl is absolutely stunned. Before them lies a massive crater. She says the vibe in this place feels completely different from a regular dungeon. She then asks our hero if double dungeons are always this intense. Kim Taehyun just says that the apocalyptic dungeon he survived was a lot like this. He warns her to stay sharp because traps or monsters could be anywhere. And speak of the devil, a tentacle erupts from the crater and yanks Yu right inside. He immediately rushes in to save her, knowing exactly how deadly these places can be. But by the time he gets down there, she's already completely obliterated the creature. However, at the bottom of the crater, there are plenty more monsters waiting for them. Yue doesn't even flinch, she just charges straight into the horde. Using her powers, she makes short work of every single one of them. Seeing her take out monsters of that rank in one hit, he can't help but be impressed. He thinks to himself that he seriously underestimated just how skilled she was. It makes him realize he needs to put in some more effort himself. After wiping out all the creatures, the girl lets out a sigh of relief. Kim Taehyun reflects on the monster's high levels, but they were no problem for Yang. Just then, she hands the warrior's ring over to our main character. She claims that by helping him, her guild benefits as well. She even adds that he could get a lot more items like this if he joined her guild. He wonders why she didn't just give him the item before they faced the monsters. He then warns her they need to be careful now. They've reached this place's inner domain. And right in front of them stands a gigantic egg. Now pay attention here. Kim Taehyun is positive that the dungeon boss is inside that thing. He suggests they gather information first, but she just rushes forward and shatters the egg. He asks if she's okay, and Young turns around with a sinister look on her face. But then she just smiles and says she's perfectly fine. She notes that based on its strength, it was probably a lower S-rank monster. Right after, a powerful glow starts pouring out from the broken egg. A voice booms out saying it has some interesting guests. Then, a phoenix appears. This is a monster with regenerative abilities so insane, its resilience is off the charts. You could easily mistake it for some kind of immortal being. Kim Taehyun is floored. He can't believe the dungeon boss is a phoenix. He shouts for Yang to be careful, that the creature can control minds. But it's too late, she's already under the phoenix's control and charging right at him. He dodges her attacks and unleashes his demonic powers to fight back, telling her to wake up. In response, the woman hurls a massive energy sphere directly at him. The phoenix just watches from a distance, laughing at how foolish humans always are. Suddenly, magical chains erupt from the ground, slamming into the woman. In that moment, he finally understands who was responsible for wiping out the Nightwalker Guild squad. He follows up with a direct physical attack, trying to shock her out of the mind control. Young is down for the count. Kim Taehyun figures she'll wake up eventually, but that won't matter if he can just take out this phoenix first. The creature just laughs, asking if the human enjoyed its little game. And right here, our hero snaps. He promises to send this thing to its maker. He straps Yue to his back and makes a run for it, but the phoenix isn't having it. It moves to block their escape, questioning his desperate move. Taehyun hurls his dagger, a desperate shot, but it phases right through the creature. The phoenix explains it's because he's literally trying to stab fire itself. It taunts him, saying a mere human could never hope to defeat it. Then the phoenix starts tearing the entire cavern apart just to prove its point. Taehyun realizes that even for a phoenix, this level of regeneration is just insane. Plus, it can grow to a massive size. This is no ordinary monster. He starts to suspect it might be a great phoenix, a mutant class of monster, with powers that are on a completely different level from regular beasts. And if he's right, you and I both know he's in some serious trouble. He stands zero chance against this thing, unless he uses his ultimate ability. Predation, but there's a huge risk. It could go wrong, just like last time. So he can't use it unless it's the absolute final, killing blow. But he knows there's no way he's winning this fight without it. Just then Young wakes up, totally disoriented and asking what's happening. Taehyun tells her to stay still. But she argues back, declaring that she will not fall under the phoenix's mind control ever again. The creature attacks, furious. How dare they get distracted in its presence? That settles it. Taehyun frees her from the chains so they can fight together. He warns her one last time not to get mind-controlled, and she thanks him. The phoenix gets even more irritated, screeching that they just don't get it. They stand no chance of winning. Taehyun ignores it and takes the lead, buffing the entire party's stats. Yua Young says it's time. She unleashes an ability of her own, actually managing to damage the phoenix. Taehyun is completely floored. He's never seen this before. She activates her Amazon spirit transformation. This is basically berserker mode. It reverses the flow of mana for a huge power-up. Most hunters avoid it because it can permanently wreck your body, but she can actually control it. She hurls her spear straight at the phoenix, and this time it connects hard. A real wound. Before the creature can even regenerate, Yue Young is on it, landing a brutal punch followed by a devastating kick in a vicious combo. The massive phoenix crashes to the ground, but the power costs her everything. She collapses. Seeing its chance, the phoenix gloats that it'll kill her while she's vulnerable. But then the magical chains erupt from the ground again, trapping the beast. Taehyun is in awe. She used a self-destructive power just to overwhelm its healing. Her raw power was so immense, it completely negated its insane regeneration. He scoops her up, saying he'll wound her pride by stealing the final blow. Meanwhile, outside the portal, the guild members are getting seriously worried. They're taking way too long to come back, and they know their guild master has a bad habit of doing reckless things in a fight. And what happens next, you'll want to see this. Alright, you and I are jumping right back in as our hero emerges from the portal, girl in his arms. He announces they've cleared the Temple of Fire, but online, the rumors are already flying. People are shipping Yue Young and our main character. She gets completely flustered, wondering what that even means and how the news got out. After all, it was a private raid. One of her guys nervously says it was hard to keep secret. Another dude adds that he only told a few of his closest friends. Big mistake. Hearing that, she just smiles, a terrifying smile, and says they're all going to die together. A little while later, her boss walks in, mentioning he heard rumors about her using her berserk ability. But it's too late. The girl has already demolished the entire room, along with the guys. Shortly after, Yue Young explains she's been training to control her berserk state. So using it for just a single minute, that was nothing. The man asks if she's gotten a read on Kim Taehyun's capabilities yet. She replies that after she fainted, our hero fought the Great Phoenix all by himself. And that pretty much says it all. Apparently, he's already heading toward the abyssal depths. Hearing this, the man is just stunned by his insane growth rate. Yue comments that she doesn't understand him at all. She says everyone wants to advance, but after a certain point, it's easy to feel satisfied. But Kim Taehyun shows no sign of stopping, using every method he can to push further. And here's the question you and I have been thinking: what could possibly be driving him so hard? Her boss guesses that he just loves his country. With monsters everywhere, he wants to see his nation prosper and be safe. But Yue knows that's just not it. Impossible. Okay, let's pause, because deep in the abyssal depths, two people are sitting on thrones. Surrounded by corpses, the seated man tells the other that they are now connected. This man is the Archduke of the Abyss. The kneeling figure thanks their new lord, proclaiming that now they will finally become the strongest of all. Meanwhile, our hero enters the abyssal portal, saying it's his first time back in the abyss. That is, since his regression, a man appears welcoming him. He introduces himself as Paula Becker, a manager for the World Association of Players. He says that according to their records, this is the kid's first time in the abyss. And our protagonist just confirms it, playing along. The man explains that he needs to hire some other players to act as guides or mercenaries. The World Association of Players has created player zones, which are basically safe camps. They're there to help with exploring each district of the dangerous abyss. But the depths are incredibly dangerous, and you can get ambushed at any moment. So he really needs to hire a few players to watch his back. And you already know his answer, right? He says it's unnecessary. Right on cue, a worm erupts from the ground, but Kim Taehyun instantly eliminates it. He calmly tells Paulo not to worry, he's just out for a little stroll. Then he breathes a sigh of relief, glad that no one else was around to see that. After defeating the great phoenix in the fire temple, our hero fulfilled a requirement. He finally hit 200 magical power, enough to activate the demonic contract. But the ability has changed. Instead of controlling monsters, it can now create portals. The kid wonders if this is another side effect of his predation skill. He thinks to himself that having a powerful creature might be better than just carrying it. Faced with dozens of monsters, he uses the amplifying stone for a temporary boost. His powers surge as the demonic contract activates, beginning to create a gate.